I'm sure you guys have been around long enough to know how the YouTube algorithm works, right? Sometimes you got to feed it. So when I say must own players for 2021, but I really love every single player that we're going to talk about today. And I think I can make a great argument as to why they should all be top targets of yours going into your drafts for 2021. If you agree with me, hit me up in the comments. Let me know what you think. If you disagree with me, well, eat shit. No, I'm kidding. If you disagree with me, I love going back and forth. That's what the fantasy community is all about. Hit me with a comment. I read all of them. I try to respond to all of them. And if you like these videos, hit that thumbs up. Helps us a ton. Again, YouTube algorithm. And subscribe to the channel as well if you haven't done so yet. Let's dive into it. But before we do, you got to check out Underdog Fantasy if you haven't done so yet. You've already heard me say it a million times if you've watched my videos in the past. I love Underdog Fantasy. It is by far my favorite platform for best ball drafts. They've got the $3.5 million best ball tournament going on right now, over $1 million to first. It's the biggest tournament in best ball history. It's fantastic. The platform's awesome. You can draft on the app, desktop, laptop, whatever you want. And if you use the promo code Awesemo, AWESEMO, you'll get $25 when you sign up and deposit. Use it on whatever you want. Man, it's been so popular lately that the $50K to first, $5 to enter puppy already filled up like a week ago, and we're not even in August yet. So I'm assuming we're going to see more of those type of tournaments as we draw closer to the season. If you want to draft now or you want to wait closer till we kick off for week one, whatever you want to do doesn't matter. But when you do it, when you sign up, use that promo code Awesemo, AWESEMO. Get your $25 injected into your account when you sign up and deposit using the promo code Awesemo. I'll see you over there. UnderdogFantasy.com. Julio Jones isn't worth more than a fourth-round pick? Seriously? I'd actually love to have this very debate on why Jones should have an ADP of 38, and I'm totally willing to listen. So if this is where you stand, leave a comment down below telling me why he shouldn't go in the first 3 rounds. But the injury-prone argument isn't going to get you very far, because while Jones dealt with a nagging hamstring injury all of last year and was on the field for only 9 games, he's played at least 14 games in each of his last 6 seasons. And in those seasons, he was the wide receiver 3, 2, 7, 6, 6, and 6. This year, Jones is being drafted as the wide receiver 17. So sure, the Titans have a 2,000-yard rusher in Derrick Henry and another elite receiver in A.J. Brown. But the Falcons had another alpha receiver in Calvin Ridley last year, and Jones was the wide receiver 3 in the 7 games that he played to completion. Yeah, you heard that right. In the 7 games Jones played from start to finish, he was the wide receiver 3, averaging 100 yards per game with a 76.3% catch rate, 11.9 yards per target, and 15.6 yards per reception. I totally understand. He's 32 years old now. He's getting up there in age. But Jones showed absolutely zero signs of age deterioration last year. Actually, he was incredible when on the field. Arthur Smith might be gone, with Todd Downing being installed as the new offensive coordinator in Tennessee. But it's hard to believe this Titans offense can't easily support 2 elite wide receiver seasons. They churned out 2 top 30 receivers last year, with one of them being Corey Davis, and the since departed Jonnu Smith caught 8 touchdowns on the year. Plus, there's no way Henry handles another 378 carries. The best part about all this is we don't need another top 5 season from Jones at his ADP. He just needs to be better than some of the 16 receivers going ahead of him. It's actually quite shocking that there are so many people out there who are unwilling to draft Ezekiel Elliott when they're sitting at the 5 spot in drafts. It's also funny how quickly we can flip our opinions on a player after one down or up season without providing any real context. Let me provide that context for you, and we'll start with the bad. Elliott averaged a career worst 4 yards per attempt last season. He also managed only 6 touchdowns on 45 red zone carries and 5 touchdowns on 26 carries inside the 5. Elliott failed to reach 1,000 rushing yards for the first time since 2017, where he had 983 yards in only 10 games. And finally, last season he averaged only 2.82 yards per contact after attempt. Pretty bad, right? On the surface, sure, this would be considered a wildly underwhelming season from Elliott. But that's without acknowledging everything that went wrong for Dallas in 2020. And Elliott was still the RB9 in PPR leagues. Moreover, Elliott was the RB2 through the first 5 weeks of the season before Dak Prescott was lost for the year, and finished top 10 in running back targets for the 3rd straight season. He ran behind an offensive line that was gutted by injuries and was constantly playing from behind thanks to god-awful defense and putrid quarterback play. Fast forward to 2021, where the Cowboys have a 9.5 game win total, a healthy Prescott and offensive line, and a running back in Elliott who looks like he was created in a lab. Dak Prescott wasn't lying when he said Elliott.
And we are live. Welcome to the MLB Deeper Dive. I am Josh Engleman. I am joined by Terry McBride, and we're here to break down a nice 11-game I almost said NBA. Not NBA. We're America, too busy losing today. MLB slate. Let's start here. Terry, how are you?
Doing pretty well, bud. It's been a minute since we've done a show together. Happy to be here with you. I know you're feeling it a little bit this morning. I know you're probably feeling the pain from that U.S. loss. Did you wake up to watch the game?
I saw absolutely nothing of that game. All I did was see it on Twitter.
Yeah, same here. Jordan actually filled me in right before we started the show. While I was writing my baseball article, I was sitting there. I knew the game was on, but the remote was across the room. And I was just like, Pawn Stars is fine. We'll just stick with that. So I missed the entire game.
So we've got a lot to break down. We've got 11 full games to touch on. We got to jam that into an hour before we turn this one over to Live Before Lock. So I am ready to dive in if you are, as long as I can just give a quick shout out to PrizePicks for being the presenting sponsor. We'll talk about them in a little bit, but I did want to shout them out right out of the gate.
Seems fair.
Let's get into this one. First game up on the docket, Phillies and Braves. 5.3 run implied total for the Phils, 4.2 for the Braves. Aaron Nola, Touki Toussaint. We go into Nola, who's pulling a ton of ownership on FanDuel and DraftKings. How do you feel about it?
I feel pretty good. I mean, I think it's not inappropriate ownership, right? He's got better back end numbers than he's got on the front of the baseball card. So I think he's pitching better than a lot of people think. But it seems like a lot of people are kind of taking that perception and running with it. So I was hoping that his front of the baseball card numbers and some of the perceived struggles would keep it a little bit lower owned than this. I love the price tag at 9,100 on the FanDuel slate. I just don't love that he's going to be owned by like a quarter of the field on that slate. So I think it is a good spot. I think he could succeed. It's just a matter of how much of the slate you want to tangle with.
Yeah, to me, it felt a little high. Like, I understand why it's happening. A little bit more extreme than I was looking for. I would probably want to come in a little bit lighter. We can get into some of the other guys later on. Toussaint for 5,900 though on DraftKings is. I'm a little surprised to see only 2% ownership. Is he someone you're going to be getting to at that price tag?
I mean, the price is interesting, but just looking at the Phillies on the other side, I'm getting significant home run indicators in my home run model here. He doesn't have like a huge sample of this season data to work with, but over his 6 2/3 whopping sample, he struck out 19.2% of hitters. He's allowed a 5.6% barrel ball rate, a 55.6 hard hit rate, which is what is pushing some of my home run model. He's a kid that they were expecting a lot from, but he struggled in the majors for the most part when he's gotten cups of coffee. So I don't know that I trust it. I think I would probably trust my model a little bit more and lean into the idea that the Phillies are maybe, even though they're underperforming, they're probably a good enough offense to get to this kid here.
Well, let's talk a little bit about those offenses. Nothing too crazy for the Phillies. I mean, Bryce Harper's pulling a pretty sizable amount of ownership on FanDuel, but it's relatively flat on DK. Braves not really pulling all that much ownership as well. What are you doing from a stack perspective here, where we see the Phillies with the 5+ run implied total? There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh my God, there's like 105 or more 5-run implied totals for today. So 5.3 doesn't seem so crazy. How are you feeling about stacking this game up?
Yeah, I like getting to the Phillies side of it anyway. I'm not sure how much of the Braves I would get to entangle with Aaron Nola. His 29% strikeout rate, his 5.3% walk rate. He just does everything well, limits the potential to create runs against him. Tucson on the other side, I think we've got enough there that we can target, especially on DraftKings, where most of these guys are 10% owned or less. So you're getting to Andrew McCutchen at only 5% ownership, Rhys Hoskins at only 3.5% ownership, and reasonable prices for DK over there, 3,900, 4,800 for that pair. You can get Harper at a much better ownership number over there. He's, of course, priced up. So I like the components of this offense. I think at least 1 through 6, starting with Gene Segura and going down to at least Didi Gregorius, you can stack those guys in varying combinations, and you're not even spending that much money to get to what looks like a pretty prime spot to me. So I actually really like it on DK. And then leaving out Harper on FanDuel, I think it's a mistake to leave him out of stacks. Obviously, one of their better hitters, one of their better power hitters. 3,800 is a fair price. That's why he's drawing that attention. Lefty going up against a weak righty. I get it. It just makes it difficult to stack this team the way that I want to. But I wouldn't, like, if I was going Segura, Realmuto, McCutchen, and Hoskins there, all those guys fairly owned, I wouldn't hate that, but I don't like the idea of leaving out Harper. So it makes it more difficult with his high-end ownership.
Based on the crunches that I just ran, I like the Phillies a lot more on FanDuel than I do on DraftKings. They came in as my number 5 stack on FanDuel, 14th on DraftKings out of 22. So I was a little surprised to see the Phillies be so low. I don't totally know what's driving that to be so low, but FanDuel, they're popping quite a bit. Braves on the other hand. Get a major
share of discount Tucson on the other side of it?
I do have a bit of Tucson on the DraftKings side, so that's probably helping at least a little bit.
Yeah. Huh. That's surprising.
So, yeah, I mean, nothing too crazy on Tucson, but I would like to be over the field of that 2% number. I think like coming in around 10 wouldn't be the craziest mark in the world. I might have him a little over projected in terms of distance in that game. That's going to be something I have to dig into. Braves bats, though, probably not a direction I'm looking to go against Nola. Seems not worth attacking like an actual good pitcher.
Yeah, I think at worst, like if he comes in there and gives up a few runs, that's, that we could get that happenstance kind of a game where they score 4 or 5, but I just don't see a big DFS upside type game for them against him here. So yeah, I agree with you on that.
Anything else you want to touch on for Phillies Braves?
No, I think we're pretty clean on that one. I do get, if you're looking to the Braves, if you want to grab anybody, I do like Jock as a one-off. Just grab the leadoff hitter, a lot of power there, lefty righty. So I get a decent home run mark on Jock. That would be my one-off from that team. If you're stacking, it's the obvious guys at the top of the lineup.
Next game up, Orioles and Gnats. 5-run implied total for the O's, 4.6 for the Nats. It's John Means. It's Paolo Espino. Sorry, wrong. That's a totally different name. Here's the main part for this game. I don't believe that you're going to be rostering either one of these pitchers, so it doesn't matter what you call them. I'm not going to be getting to John Means. Maybe, a 2 or 3%er. I'm not getting to Espino at all, so I don't care to learn his name.
Yeah, I think that's certainly fair on the Espino side of things. John Means, I could see people getting to him. We're not getting much of an ownership projection on him. I don't get much of a projection on him, but he's a guy who people think is a good pitcher, and he is like the luckiest man in baseball. He's got every year of his career this ridiculously low BABIP where he just benefits from balls going right to his infielders, and it's just smoke and mirrors with this guy. So yeah, I don't want any part of him, but I can understand where people are maybe getting to him. To me, I'm actually getting decent home run indicators on the other side for the Nats. I think this team can create some runs against a guy like John Means. For the season, 76 innings, 24.5% strikeout rate for him, 0.87 whip, and 4.5% walk rate, doing fine with putting guys on base and then benefiting from that extra from the BABIP. So the numbers are sparkling for him, but I just think that this team can connect with him. There's a lot of power on the team. So I don't want any part of John Means here, but I can understand, given a short slate of pitchers, given an $8,000 salary on FanDuel, a $9,300 on DK is way too much to pay for him. $8,000 on FanDuel, if you come up with 5% John Means over a 1% public ownership, fine. You're not doing yourself any major favors, but you're probably not hurting yourself either.
No, he popped 4% on FanDuel, 4% on DK for me. So not somebody that I could like push for hard, but it's a non-zero. Offense is sort of just middle of the pack on both sides for me. I have the Orioles 15th on FanDuel, 10th on DK. I have the Nats 14th on FanDuel, 9th on DK. They're just sort of middle of the pack guys. Like Trey Turner pops pretty well for me. Austin Hayes is pulling a ton of ownership on DraftKings at 3K. That seems, I know why it's happening, but I don't really need 22%. Are you looking to get to Orioles or Nats?
Probably not, just based on the ownership factor on the Orioles side of things, particularly on FanDuel, where they're just getting a lot of attention through that top 5. And then actually it's pretty similar as well, except for Trey Mancini is not getting that much ownership on DK. I might grab a Mancini one-off at 5,300. You're paying up to do it, but he's not that highly owned. But yeah, other than that, I don't really need to get to this Orioles team with that much ownership on it. It's a targetable spot against Espino. I mean, 16.5% strikeout rate for that guy. Allowing a 9.8% barrel ball rate, walking 4.4% of hitters. The walks are saving his life in my run creation metric, but it's only barely got him into positive numbers here to the 2.3. So it's a targetable spot, but I think we can do better for offense. I think we can get to a better team with less ownership.
I was a little surprised to see how aggressive this ownership is. Like, they have a decent top value metric, but we have Baltimore at 4.3% to be the top stack on DraftKings and a 13% ownership share. I mean, that's like, to me, this is like the easiest team to get away from, which is kind of crazy.
That's the kind of negative leverage that you just run screaming from. And if they beat you, they beat you. I mean, that's kind of what I was saying about the Tigers last night and the day before. And, the Tigers produced early on, but they had a weird setup where like not that many of their guys were really scoring major DFS points. So when you put them next to a team like the Blue Jays that ended up more expensive, scored more runs, but the Blue Jays just did it in ways that created individual scores that were also higher. So it was just, getting to these bad teams, even when they string runs together, it just makes it challenging because you do still get a lot of negative or a lot of, 0 point contributors throughout the lineup. So just not my approach.
So let's go into a little bit of theory here for a second, because I think people would enjoy this. We look at the top stacks tool. We see, Baltimore at 1/3 of their ownership with the top stacks. How does that change what you're doing? Like, do you just uncheck them as even a stack that could pop up? Do you try to reduce them in any sort of way? Like, what mechanisms do you use to try and get less of the Orioles in that situation?
So it's something that I'll attack in a couple different ways. When I'm in Fantasy Cruncher setting up the stacks tool, I might cut them a smaller piece of the pie, what we can get to in Baltimore stacks. That's something you have to be careful with because it adds up. If you're crunching like 500 lineups, you do one crunch with 100, you do another, they're going to get that piece of the pie each time. So it adds up. Same thing with individual ownership. I slice individual ownership pretty low, but that can also pile up. So then I've got a third part of the process when I dump it into my Excel filter that uses our leverage scores and creates a leverage situation where highly owned teams with weak projections get filtered down toward the bottom. So it tends to cut it to around where I want it. And then given time, like on a day like today where I'll have an hour, I'll get in there and manually move things around if I need to as well.
Okay. Anything we should specifically touch on for the Nats? Trey Turner, the only guy on both sites in double-digit ownership. Ryan Zimmerman is there on DK, but he's under 10% on FanDuel. To me, these guys just sort of exist. But on our top stack tool, Washington is actually 4th on DraftKings and slightly underowned.
That makes them interesting. I hadn't spotted that. I'm getting a good projection on hitters 2 through 5. Trey Turner, Juan Soto, Josh Bell, Ryan Zimmerman. The 4 hitters that anybody who is stacking this team would click on. Everybody else is projected pretty weakly in my model. Everybody else has a weak home run mark. Those 4 hitters I do like. They're not getting that much public ownership in our projections. But like I said, I think anybody going to this team is picking those 4 hitters off the top unless they're making 40 Nats lineups. So I don't know that you're going to string it together in unique ways or unique enough ways, but that would be the focus. I do get good marks on those guys. So I expect I'll have some of them. Maybe it's a situation where I start grabbing them as one-offs in like 4-3-1 type constructions.
Okay. Anything else for Orioles Nats?
I think we got it. I think that covers it.
All righty. Keeping it moving, Marlins and Padres. 3.2 run implied total for the Marlins, or at least that's what it was when I made up this line when we didn't know who the pitcher was going to be. 4.3 for the Pods, though. It's John Curtis going up against Yu Darvish. Very different matchup here. Don't get the sense that I'm going to be going to Curtis. Don't think he's going to be able to be out there long enough. Everybody, on the other hand, is going to Yu Darvish, and I don't really have any way to say that that's a bad idea. Seems great to me. What do you want to do with Darvish?
Yeah, top projected pitcher on my board personally by a pretty decent margin over Sonny Gray is my next highest guy. I think it makes total sense. I assume he's our top projected pitcher on both sites. So, yeah, smash spot for you, Darvish. Not that much to say. 28.9% strikeout rate over 110 2/3 innings, only walking 5.9, inducing 12.7% swinging strikes, 30.4% CSW. Limits hard hit to 33.5%. So I don't really care that he allows 7.1% barrels, 18.2-degree average launch angle, but it's in there. Maybe somebody on the Marlins turns on one. Adam Duvall might get a hold of one and hit it out of the yard. It's going to be a solo shot because he's not going to put too many guys on base. Monster strikeout opportunity spot for Darvish here. So love the spot. I don't really care about the ownership. I think you have to ride Darvish because he's far and away the best pitcher on this slate.
Couldn't agree more. Don't have anything to add. It's not close. He's at the top. And I think we can quickly say that we have no interest in Marlin stacks.
No. Yeah, this is one of those spots where we talked about it yesterday with like the White Sox and the Brewers, where you get that apex pitcher. It's like, yeah, this isn't your spot to be contrarian, regardless of the half point ownership on everybody on this team across the board. It's you don't want to attack those extremely, extremely good pitchers, and Darvish is in that group.
How are you feeling about the Padres? As I look at it, they're sort of middle of the pack. Obviously, a ton of power. Tatis, Machado, no issues there. Not really a team that I'm expecting to be getting to all that much. No real ownership coming in other than Tatis, though.
Yeah, I'm curious to see where they come up in when I start doing crunches. I do have a couple of these guys projected highly. Tatis, obviously. Grisham projects out pretty well. Manny projects out pretty well. And then like Tommy Pham and Jay Cronenworth, it's somewhat the obvious guys. But I think I've got good enough marks that they'll pull some of my shares. I'm not sure how much. It's a team I've had to force a couple times. I wasn't getting to them enough earlier in the year. They started stealing so many bases that I was like, all right, these guys are quality for MLB DFS purposes, and I really want to get to them. So I'm going to force it in if I don't get it naturally, just because it's so low owned on FanDuel, except for Tatis, well under 10%, under 5%, honestly. So I think it's at least an interesting enough spot going into a bullpen game. We don't typically focus on attacking bullpen games, maybe like you did back in the day where the bullpens weren't just loaded with 98-mile-an-hour flamethrower high leverage type arms. But the Marlins bullpen is not the greatest in the world. So I think you can get away with it here. Like Curtis coming off the top, only at 24.2% strikeout rate and 36 1/3. He'll get an inning, maybe two off the top. He's not the kind of guy who's going to go in and just carve this lineup up with a ton of strikeouts, sit everybody down and just take the bats out of their hands. So I expect some production from the Padres here. That said, I don't get like crazy power marks for them, which is somewhat interesting. So I think it's maybe a run creation, stolen bases kind of a spot.
Yeah, my crunch, Grisham, Tatis, Cronenworth, and Machado were like 5 to 6%ers, and that's about it. So equal-ish with the field. 4.3 run implied total was just oddly low. I wonder if that's actually bigger now that there's probably like a real line out there. Because that might be what's pushing me down a little bit further on the Padres than I expected. Okay,
that's
so
actually, I made mine up.
Yeah, as well. So the line now minus 198, 180. Total is now still 7.5. So yeah, this is just projected to be quite the low scoring game. Makes it a little bit harder for me to get to the pods with so many teams at 5 or more. To get in at like the 4-4 range where I have them is problematic. I don't have anything else for this one.
Yeah, I think we've got that one top to bottom. If you're stacking Padres, if you do go to a wide range of Padres stacks and different builds, there's a lot of low ownership on guys like Tommy Pham, guys after the 5 spot, right? You get Pham, you get Hosmer, you get Profar. Those are productive hitters. I know they're not the greatest in terms of DFS production, but Profar is an interesting guy from the hit tool speed perspective. He's got a 334 on base, so he can use his legs to a decent amount. Stolen 10 bases on the season. Hosmer's a guy, he's a total enigma through his entire career. Everybody expected a much better player, but he's still 265, 328, 380, creates runs around the average, 8 home runs on the season. He's fine to mix in. He's not a great player by any means, but he's fine to mix in if you're building stacks. So there are ways to differentiate those Padres stacks as well, just even further than like the common constructions around the 4 guys that we named.
504 concurrent viewers, just 70 likes. I'm not doing my job correctly. Hit that thumbs up, everybody. We need to get north of 100 ASAP. I'm going to have a little sip of my coffee after I'm done this little rant. Schedule for the rest of the day. It's pretty easy. Live Before Lock is coming up in about 40 minutes. EMac and Eric breaking it all down for an hour, taking you up to lock. That's it. It's a light Sunday today. We don't have a lot else going on. It's just baseball right now. So when that show ends, we're done and dusted, but we'll be back again tomorrow, cranking out show upon show upon show, whether that's just baseball coverage, videos popping up on the Awesemo Odds YouTube channel, which you guys should be subscribing to, videos popping up on the Awesemo Fantasy Football channel, which you guys should be subscribed to. Lots of stuff going on right now. It's a fun time to be making content, especially here at awesemo.com. Let's keep it moving now. Let's close and refresh later. Thank you, Fantasy Cruncher. It's always nice that I don't ruin it sometimes. The Guardians taking on the Rays. 4.3 run implied total for Cleveland, 5.2 for the Rays. Tristan McKenzie, Ryan Yarbrough. Neither guy really pulling any ownership. McKenzie at 2% on DK. Yarbrough is at 4 on FanDuel and DraftKings. I have him around 5%. It's pretty much where I have McKenzie too. Are you getting to more pitching here than the public?
I haven't actually crunched lineups. I'm not expecting to, just based on where these guys are projecting out to me. I do like the prices. Like if I got a few shares of McKenzie at 6,900, I wouldn't completely hate it. 7,900 over 7,900 over on DK, probably a bit more than you want to pay for him. He's had a couple, big starts. He's had a couple spots where he's been the pitcher that they're expecting him to be. But you're also throwing him into a Tampa lineup that's got a 194 collective ISO against righties. It creates runs third best in the league at a 113 WRC plus, 4.49% home run rate is second best in the league against righties. So not a great spot for the kid. I don't really love it. I don't know that you get the depth. I don't know that you get the upside. So not for me. Yarbs on the other side, probably not going to put him into action here against the Guardians. 19.6% strikeout rate for him on the season. It's probably not high enough for me, despite the fact that the confirmed Guardians Cleveland lineup has a 25.5% strikeout rate. So I don't know. I don't really want to go to either one of these pitchers. I think there's enough in the top end where I'm just going to be focused probably on a fairly tight pitching core and then looking to spread out to some of these stacks.
I assume you'll be at least a little bit interested in Tampa. Tampa is the number one stack in our top stack tool. They are projected to be slightly under-owned as well. How are you feeling about the Rays against Tristan McKenzie?
I'm still feeling lousy about the Rays from last night when I accidentally left G-Man Choi out of my stacks, and he had a nice game that would have been a difference maker for me. So a little pissed about that. Got to fix it in my model here. But yeah, they're looking very good for me, getting nice home run marks, getting nice projections through the top end of the lineup. I think guys like Wander Franco and Yandy Diaz remain interesting toward the back end of the lineup. Franco's prices come down. His popularity's come down a little bit. So that's the kind of time that I want to get to a kid with his prospect profile. Let people get really excited about him. Let him be priced up. And then as it starts coming down the other way, that's when you jump on. Francisco Mejia could give you some interesting catcher at bats on the DK slate. And I think Brett Phillips for 2,100 on FanDuel, 2,000 on DK is at least interesting as a wraparound option. Kid's got some speed. The hit tool hasn't been there, 205, 308, 357 on the season, but he's stolen 11 bases. He's got a little bit of that mid-range power. He's hit 5 home runs. So as a dead minimum wraparound kind of a guy, I don't mind Brett Phillips here either. So I can get to this lineup, honestly, in different configurations, 1 through 9.
Yeah, I'm a fan of the Rays here. I have them 4th on FanDuel, 6th on DraftKings. And, we mentioned the top stack odds. They're basically tied with Detroit at the top. Detroit's pulling quite a bit more ownership. So the Rays, oddly enough, a top stack that looks like they have leverage. You don't see that a lot.
No, yeah, that's a unique situation. That's one you definitely want to jump on and take advantage of. And that's why I love when I'm maybe sleeping on a team. That's why I love just always checking the top stack tool. And you notice something like that, and all of a sudden now I'm going to make some adjustments and make sure that I get overweight to some of these teams. Because looking at the team that I wrote up this afternoon that we'll get to later, they're pretty positively leveraged as well, which I'm excited about. So yeah, there's some interesting looking spots on that top stacks tool.
Any interest in Cleveland?
Maybe a little, just because, they're not getting any ownership, right? So from a sequential hitting point of view, and then with some power upside, maybe there's something there to go after for Yarbs. He's just not a high enough strikeout rate that I'm really worried about. If a few guys get on base, he's the guy that's going to be sitting these guys down confidently with the strikeout. So there's at least something to talk about there. It's just, when you get this lineup without Jose Ramirez in it, it takes such a big hit. So maybe I'm just looking for one-offs. Like maybe if I grab a Franmil Reyes one-off in some spots. He's priced at 3,900 on the FanDuel slate, so it's not even easy to do. 3,800 on DK, maybe that's a little bit more interesting. Bobby Bradley, similar story. He's only 2,500 on FanDuel, so maybe you use him as your one-off, get a decent power mark on both of those guys. I just don't love the configuration of this lineup today, really. So it's probably a stay away in terms of stacks.
Yeah, I don't really see it for stacks. I do like the Fran Mill one-off as like a shot in the dark at the very least, but that's exactly how it feels too. A shot in the dark. I don't feel comfortable with it at all.
Yeah, that's all Fran Mill is on most slates. I mean, 32% strikeout rate. He's a three outcomes kind of a guy. 17 home runs on the season, a titanic 311 ISO, creating runs 34% better than average, 263, 314, 574 slash. So he's a good hitter when he's making contact.
We can keep it moving to one of my favorite teams, probably second for today's slate, the Reds and the Cardinals. 5.5 run implied total for the Reds, 4.5 for the Cards. Sonny Gray, Johan Oviedo. Oviedo not pulling any ownership. Gray at 10% on FanDuel, 17% on DraftKings. It's about where I have him. So I think the Gray ownership looks good. But what I ultimately want to talk about are these Cincinnati Reds bats.
Yeah, love the spot for the Reds bats. I wrote about them a little bit. The ownership wasn't up when I was writing my article this morning. So let me see where they came in. So
it's heavy.
Yeah, it's heavy. I can work with it on FanDuel, I think, at least. Some of these guys are all right, like Naquin under 10%, Joey only around 12. That's workable. It's heavier than I was hoping for, but it's workable. On DK, it gets up a little bit higher on some of those guys, and then you get Aristides Aquino, still priced super low, great home run mark, great home run upside for him, but a lot of ownership there. So it's going to be tricky to put them together the way I really, really want to. But I do like the spot a lot. Going up against Oviedo, only a 17% strikeout rate on the season. Barrel balls, 7.7%. He's got a 5.21 xFIP, a 1.50 whip, walking 11.7% of hitters. So in my BBB minus K, the run creation metric, he's at a negative 2.4. That's one of the more targetable spots on the slate. So definitely could fire away with Reds bats. I just wish they were lower owned.
Yeah, they are pulling a ton of ownership. The second biggest negative leverage score on the slate per the top stacks tool. Let me hit F5 here just to make sure that hasn't updated to change a different direction. Okay, so a little bit less ownership now. Detroit pulling even more ownership. Tampa Bay still alone at the top and has a massive positive leverage score. I don't know what to make of Cincinnati right now. I still want to get to some of these guys, but like the Aquino 22% on DK is a healthy number that I find to be too big. They're just really easy to get to. They're cheap. They're really cheap.
Yeah, I mean, and honestly, just taking another look through the DK numbers, like if you just wanted to go through a India, Winker, Stevenson, Votto stack, or maybe you leave Stevenson out and go to Naquin, although you need the catcher on DK. So maybe it's just that top four on DK where all those guys are 10-ish, then Winker's up in like the 15 range. That's not totally terrible, particularly if you're going to one of these other lower owned teams that we talk about, or maybe you're combining some low owned pitching and just trying to focus on getting to a unique combination anywhere that you are building with those quality Reds. Those ownership numbers aren't completely terrible. There's just, the leverage is, it looks like it's coming significantly from Naquin and Aquino there. So it's at least interesting and something that you can play with in different combinations.
Cardinals bats against Gray. Is that a direction you want to go? It's not really for me.
Yeah, not really. I think it's more of a Sonny Gray spot for me. I'm getting a nice projection on him. I wrote about him a little bit in my column. I love the 8,600 price on FanDuel. 98, I think, is a fair price on DK, but I think that FanDuel price, for me, he's going under-owned on FanDuel at our current projection, just based on where I thought he would be at that price. So I really like the upside, 29.7% strikeout rate, a 3.26 xFIP on the season, allows only 4.6 barrel balls, 30.1% hard hit rate. So there's not much home run profile to speak of when it's only a 9-degree average launch angle. Really, really like the spot for Sonny here. I think he can shut these Cards down. We saw Luis Castillo have a very nice game against this exact same team last night. Cards do one thing well against right-handed pitching, and that's limit the strikeouts at 22.1%. But Castillo just carved them up last night. I think there's the same path for Sonny to do it. Outside of that, they create runs 13% worse than average against righties. 3.30% home run rate is below average. 150 collective ISO also below average. So when you think of all the power hitters and the quality hitters on that team, these guys are all pretty much underperforming, which is a little strange to say. So by WRC plus at the top end of the lineup, they're not. They are creating runs. But just when you think of like Nolan Arenado, let's say, he is better than a 13% above average by WRC plus kind of a guy. So these guys are underperforming. And then in the power department, I think they're underperforming. The hit tool is underperforming. So it's a spot I like to attack.
Anything else here in this game, Reds and Cardinals?
No, I think we got it up and down and sideways. we covered that one pretty well.
If you are interested in signing up at Awesemo.com, boy, do I have a scoop for you. MLB Deeper Dive. One giant word is the promo code. You can get 25% off your first week of Awesemo Plus Platinum. I know it says MLB in the title. You probably think that's just an MLB promo code. It's not. You get access to everything. Awesemo Plus Platinum covers it all. NBA, which isn't super helpful right now, but it still exists. NHL, same story, but PGA every week. NASCAR apparently every week except for this week and next week, from what I'm starting to understand. MMA every week. We've got tennis, esports, so much going on, but baseball is the main driver right now. And you can use that promo code MLB Deeper Dive. One huge word. You can see it on the screen. Thanks to the man behind the virtual glass, Jordan Klein. He's got it up there for you guys. Sign up, save yourself 25% on that first week. And then we go to Mets and Blue Jays. It's a coin flip game, 4.6 runs on each side. Rich Hill, Ross Stripling. Stripling's getting 4% ownership on DraftKings. To me, that's about right. Rich Hill is at 7% on DraftKings. Adam about 9%, so that's about right. I don't have a hot take for Hill or Stripling. They're just sort of like two guys I would probably have in 5 to 10% of my lineups.
Yeah, if I got to shares of Hill, I wouldn't take him out necessarily. 6,600 on FanDuel is obviously a very fair price. 7K on DK. I think he's probably more appealing on the two-pitcher site. I don't necessarily want to go to him where I'm only locking in one option. I just think there's, your premium options on this slate, and then it just kind of falls off a cliff. Hill would be the guy who's like clinging to the side of the cliff for relevance to me. So I don't need to really force him here. If I got a couple shares, I'd be all right because I assume I'm spending the money on some high-end bats. He projects in the middle of the field for me. He's 23.4% strikeout rate, over 95 and a third on the season, giving up too many barrels, giving up a pretty premium launch angle. Saves himself a little with a 36.6% hard hit rate, but overall 4.54 xFIP on the season, 9.9% induced swinging strikes. I know he's got the reputation that he's been pitching well as a crafty lefty late in his career and all of that. The Mets brought him in, making his Mets debut, but I don't know. To me, it's not a great spot to throw him into this Blue Jays lineup. I just really, really like these Blue Jays. Overall, Toronto, 4.16% home run rate against lefties, 8th best in baseball. Create runs 7% better than average. 181 collective ISO, well better than average in the split. Only strike out 22.2% of the time. I expect Toronto's going to put a lot of balls in play here, maybe hit a few over the fence. I think I'd rather get the Toronto bats if I'm getting anything in this game, although the Mets bats are also looking pretty good to me.
Yeah, I will happily get to the bats in this one. Under-owned for the Mets, or at least they were earlier. They are popping up sort of at the bottom of the top stacks tool, but, they're at 3%. Everybody else is like 4s and 5s. It's not as if there's some, gigantic gap, but they're not pulling any ownership at all. Toronto, on the other hand, coming in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8th, something around those lines, but no ownership to speak of on the Blue Jays. And if that's the case, I will happily buy some of this right-handed power. I see no reason to skip out on Springer, Guerrero. I mean, really, anybody in this lineup outside of Espinal actually has some pop. Load up on the Jays, I think. I think they're going very, very underrepresented. Is that the second biggest leverage score on DraftKings? It is. Second biggest leverage score on the slate as of right now. Keep your eyes peeled on the Jays. Any individual Mets bats you want to grab, though, specifically. Like Alonso is pulling a lot of ownership on FanDuel at 9%. Nobody else is really pulling any ownership. Is that surprising to you?
That is kind of surprising, given that Ross Stripling, not exactly, Max Scherzer on the hill here, and he's got some very solid indicators for home run upside for the Mets. So Pete Alonso was actually my home run pick of the day. I didn't write the Mets up as a stack, but individually he was popping. I can play him at 9% ownership. I don't mind that too much. And I think I would prefer to probably do it in Mets stacks, considering that people aren't stacking this team. There's a lot of bats on this team that I like now that they're healthy again, outside of Lindor, of course. Brendan Nimmo, Dom Smith, Jeff McNeil, Michael Conforto, bunch of lefties to throw at Stripling here, bunch of lefties with power upside to throw at Stripling. Stripling's allowing an 11.5% barrel ball rate on the season over 75 innings. That is significant for power. 41% hard hit rate, 90.3 mile an hour average exit velo, 17-degree average launch angle. That is just significant home run trajectory. So I love the spot here for the Mets, actually, now that I'm looking more at it. I think they're really under-owned. I think they could hit a couple of home runs, give us some nice DFS scoring here.
Yeah, I think
both sides of
this game as a whole, man. Like I kind of want everything. Like I want a little bit of Rich Hill, I want a little bit of Ross Stripling, I want some Mets, and I definitely want some Blue Jays.
Yeah,
just cornering the market on something.
Right, yeah, exactly. And I loaded up on the Blue Jays last night. It worked out fairly well. I'm not saying that's not any kind of indicator for like the idea that they would come through today. But if you were loaded up on the Blue Jays last night, we were a little bit under where they came in terms of ownership, but it worked out to this situation where like you still really wanted them and there was still significant leverage on the field for them, even though they came in higher than we had projected in terms of ownership. Even if that happens again today, like you could tell me that they're going to be coming in, I don't know, not double, but like significantly higher than we've got them projected for. And I think I'd still be pretty interested here. It just looks like a killer spot.
Anything else you want to touch on Mets and Jays?
No, I think that's got it. I'm grabbing some. We had a bunch more lineups just dropped, so I'm just updating some stuff there in the back end.
Okay. Red Sox and Yankees are the next one up. 5.6 run implied total for the Red Sox, 4.9 for the Yanks. It's Martin Perez, Domingo Herman. None of these pitchers getting any sort of love. I don't mind getting to Herman at 6,300, although it's obviously a terrifying spot up against Boston.
Don't do it.
From a pitching perspective, do you want to get to Perez or Herman in this one?
No, I'm leaving both these pitchers on the table. Perez is giving people, spot starts where he's been fine, but they're both looking pretty targetable for offense to me. That said, I'm not really getting to my Yankees, I don't think, just given the fact that this is still a clunky version of this lineup. They do get Gio Urshela back in, but Gio Urshela is not going to save the day. Gio Urshela is an overrated hitter. He's a decent defensive third baseman who has had some upstart hits for the Yankees, 11 home runs on the season, 166 ISO, creates runs 7% better than average. Anybody out there wants to trade for him, they can have him. If you're going to Yankees, it's LeMahieu, Stanton, Odor, Sanchez, and Torres off the top for me. I don't need the back half. But much more important to me is the Red Sox stack in this one. I am looking to attack Domingo Herman. He is 22% strikeouts on the season, 4.45 xFIP, a 1.24 whip. Only walks 6% of hitters, so there's a little bit of BABIP maybe baked into his whip. Induces 13.3% swinging strikes, but he's below average, not throwing enough strikes overall in terms of the CSW. Allows an 8.1% barrel ball rate with a 14.1 degree average launch angle. 38.5% hard hit rate is creeping up toward dangerous territory. I just get decent profiles for home runs for this Red Sox lineup that is so good at creating runs, hitting the ball out of the yard. There's just a lot to like here, and they're getting only like mid-range attention at worst. It's coming in around the obvious guys, Bogarts and Devers popping up there in terms of ownership projection, but nobody else. You're getting JD Martinez in the middle of this lineup, under 5% ownership on both sites, under 5,000 on the DraftKings slate. I don't have any issues with that. And then I think Verdugo's starting to creep into underpriced range. Hunter Renfroe probably a little underpriced for his power upside. I don't love Christian Vasquez and Franchi Cordero on the back end, but at least 1 through 7 I can stack this team.
Yeah, this Red Sox are my number 2 stack on DK. Yankees are number 4. They're 3rd and 4th on the top stack tool right now. Basically properly owned, but there's value. There's high-end plays. I like getting to the offense more than I like getting to anything else here. I will happily have a lot of Red Sox. I will happily have a lot of Yankees. And as you mentioned for the Yankees, I'm going to try to stick to those first 5. After you get to Torres, it kind of falls off of a cliff.
Yeah, it's just garbage, and you could argue that Gleyber should be tossed into that can the way he's been so far this season too. Anyway, he hit 3 home runs last week or the last 10 days or whatever, but he had 3 home runs all season before that and only 3 home runs last year after giving us like 39 2 years ago. So just a weird couple of years for Gleyber here. So hopefully he's turned a corner, but yeah, I'm with you on that. What would be driving your interest in Domingo Herman? Just the price?
It wasn't anything crazy. Like we haven't projected for 1% ownership. He popped in 6% of my sim crunch. So nothing crazy.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, like I'm not advocating hard. He's a non-zero. And that's really the biggest takeaway. Anything else? Red Sox or Yanks?
If you're grabbing one-offs from the Yankees, like who would be your one-off if you wanted one? I think for me, as much as I hate it, I think it might have to be, and not even because it's lefty-lefty. I was going to say Odor, but it's not even because it's lefty-lefty. So I don't think there's a one-off on the Yankees that I want because Stanton's too owned. Is there a one-off in the Yankees lineup that you want?
LeMahieu is the guy that popped up the most for me in my DK crunch. Stanton is second, but I don't feel like I'm getting anything of real value for either one of those guys, given their ownership. Odor would be the first guy just because he's not pulling the ownership and people probably shy away for it from a lefty-lefty perspective, and they probably shouldn't. So yeah, Odor is probably my answer, but I don't find them to be super one-offy. I either want the full 5 at the top or probably nothing at all.
Yeah, I think that's definitely the better approach to this team.
Okay.
Ugly Yankees team.
Yes. On to Astros and Rangers. 5.3 run implied total for the Stros, 3.6 for the Rangers. Zach Greinke, Taylor Hearn, no ownership coming to Hearn. Greinke, 17% on DK, which I think is fully appropriate. Just 9% on FanDuel, which I find to be a little bit low. So I actually like Greinke here on FanDuel more than I like him on DraftKings, just given the current projected ownership.
Yeah, Greinke was projecting out a little bit decently for me as well. So I'm kind of surprised to see that ownership there. I was expecting it to be a little bit higher going up against the Rangers team with plenty of strikeouts in the lineup. Greinke's only an 18.5% strikeout rate guy these days, 5% walks. So he gets by. I've been saying it all season. He gets by on guile and just knowing how to pitch. His stuff doesn't even really work that well anymore. His fastball's at like 88 miles an hour. His changeup's at like 87. So there's no differential there. He just gets through. So I think he gets through with a fairly clean start. Maybe he picks up a couple bonus Ks in this going up against the Rangers lineup, the confirmed lineup, 25.5% average strikeout rate. You've got Eli White on the back end of the lineup with a 30. You've got David Dahl in there at 27. You've got Gallo back in the lineup. Tremendous power, but he also strikes out 32% of the time. There's a couple guys like Curtis Terry, only 8 plate appearances so far, has not done anything. He's 0 for 8, I believe, 50% strikeout rate. So that's throwing the average a little bit. But yeah, this is a team that can strike out quite a bit. Is there any interest for you, though? I'm just spotting now the fact that the entire back end of their lineup, 5 through 9, is all at the minimum price on DraftKings. Does that give you any interest just from a weird, like, Zach Greinke, not a big strikeout guy, certainly somebody you can hit home runs off of, and they're all minimum priced? I can string together 5 hitters for the minimum. Is that all interesting?
I mean,
It's
Jonah
just an
Heim,
awful
yes.
situation.
Not really, though. Nobody really popped up all that much. Like the most that I got of anybody was Jonah Heim at 4%. So it's not anything that I can go super strong to.
Yeah. It
feels weird.
Yeah, it's just you don't see that many hitters in a row. I'm trying to get Nathaniel Lowe in here now. I don't know why they changed his name on us all of a sudden.
Oh, it bounced around recently, which is super annoying.
Yeah, it's a real pain in the ass. I noticed it yesterday. It's just like,
yeah.
Come on. But I mean, what if we went Nate Lowe 3,400, Joey Gallo 4,500, and then just started combining like Jonah Heim, David Dahl, and Brock Holt, let's say, all for the minimum? I mean, that's got to have at least some appeal with no ownership and those discounts on it.
Yeah, I mean, I'll always have some interest in buying a cheap well, maybe not cheap, but an unowned Joey Gallo home run or a Nate Lowe home run. Like, to me, I think you can get there. I see those as more one-off plays than getting to an actual Rangers stack.
That makes sense. Yeah, if you need that's true. If you need somebody super cheap at almost any position, the Rangers are your team to go to on DK. That makes sense. Yeah.
Astro stacks, on the other hand, not a lot of fear in Taylor Hearn, apparently. Plus 5.3 run implied total is like the 3rd or 4th highest for the slate. But no one's really pulling all that much ownership. Like Altuve and Correa are both at 7% on FanDuel. That's the highest in the entire game. Nobody north of 5 on DK. Do you get to the Stros, who are like middle of the pack, but slightly under-owned per the top stack tool?
Yeah, if they're not coming up for me naturally, I think I'm going to make sure I get to them. I think it's a targetable spot here going up against Hearn, and they're just a team that I like to get to. I forced them in a little bit yesterday. It didn't really work out. Whenever they're going under-owned, I'm going to try and get to them. So even if they're not coming up, which I expect they're going to, because the top 5 hitters in the lineup all project pretty significantly for me, all pulling decent home run marks in my model. And then I don't mind getting to, I don't love Chas McCormick, but I actually do like Abraham Toro, only 2,300 on FanDuel, 2,900 on the DK slate. He's got some pop in that bat. So he's a little bit sneaky. He's got a little bit of speed. I don't mind building him in as another guy to offset some ownership or some cost, because the rest of the bats in the lineup are expensive. They're not getting that much ownership and probably largely driven by that price. If you can make it work with your pitching and with getting to another good stack, then absolutely fire up some Astro stacks here. Good spot.
Yeah, no problem grabbing. I'm surprised that they're going mildly under-owned. So no problem spending that salary. There's enough pitching out there that I think it's pretty easy to get to. And if I'm neutral on Greinke at 10K, I'm fine with it. I really like that price tag more so on FanDuel than DraftKings. God, that scares me.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that. And I think, look, just going to add one more data point to it, going to my my run creation metric, which is that walk rate plus barrel rate minus strikeout rate multiplied by -1. He lands at a 6.9, which is not good. That's targetable. The guy on the other side of this one, Taylor Hearn, is at 4.2. So if we're talking about the ability to string together some hits against a guy who's not striking anybody out, he doesn't walk too many guys, he doesn't allow too many barrels, but it just comes together in a situation where if they do happen to get a few guys on base, he's not really a go-to to get out of the situation. So sequential hitting wise, maybe you can squeeze some value out of Texas. I think if they do anything, though, it's probably going to be in terms of like a 5-run game. Maybe you get a Joey Gallo home run. So I agree. It's probably more a one-off spot than a stacking spot still. But it's just another interesting data point on Grinky, I think.
Anything else here? Astros, Rangers, before we close this one out with the final 3 games of the slate.
Let's do it.
All right. Before we get into those games, we have 164 likes. That's awesome. 700 concurrent. If we can get up over 200, that'd be really fun. So hit that thumbs up. Helps us out tremendously. And again, subscribe to the channel. Hit the notification bell so you know when everything goes live. But we got to talk a little bit about the presenting sponsor of this show, PrizePicks. You don't have to deal with sharks, optimizers, mass entries. You're picking 2, maybe 3, 4, or 5 of the players available. If you pick a 5-player lineup, you can win up to 10 times your entry fee. That's an NBA contest, MLB contest, WNBA, NFL, even esports. You could use the promo code Awesemo and get an instant match deposit bonus of up to $100. I will say this forever. When you can get these instant match bonuses on your first deposit, take the free money, put 100 in, build up a bankroll there, get a free $100 in that situation. It's as good as it's going to get for you. You're not going to find that kind of edge in just simply playing the contest, I promise. I've got 2 prize picks for you. I need to get your thoughts on the following. Do you think Robbie Grossman goes over or under 7.5 fantasy points today?
Let's see. Let me jump back over to them. I have him. Are we talking FanDuel scoring, right?
It is FanDuel scoring, correct.
I've got him going over.
All righty. 7.5 for Robbie Grossman. We will take the over. How about Salvador Perez at 7 fantasy points?
I have got Sally going over as well. I've got him with a pretty nice little home run mark on it, which is probably driving that. So I like that one as well.
Ooh, got that sneeze in and got the mute. Felt good. Let's close this bad boy out. And again, shout out to PrizePicks. Thank you so much for being the presenting sponsor here. Let's close it out. 3 more games, Royals and Tigers. 5.1 implied total for the Royals, 5.3 for the Tigers. Daniel Lynch, Tariq Skubal. Am I saying that correctly?
Yeah, that was it. You got it. Nice.
I'll take it. No real ownership coming to Lynch, just 4% on DK where he's 5,200, 7% ownership coming into Skubal on DraftKings. I'd actually be fine with both of those numbers. Are you going to be targeting any pitching here? Because I'm pretty confident we're going to be targeting some bats.
Yeah, I'm not looking to the Royals pitcher. I don't think we're going to get enough out of Lynch here in this situation. Only 8 innings pitched over 3 starts. Just if he's going to be a starter, he's only ramping up. So I don't think he's there. Skubal is at least somewhat interesting. 26.7% strikeout rate on the season, induces 12% swinging strikes. Only a 27.8% CSW, which is a little concerning. Allows 12.5% barrels, 45.9% hard hit rate, and a 91 mile an hour average exit velo. That's what's creating the home run upside on the other side of this. If he gets through clean in terms of the home run, I like his ability to potentially get through this clean. He also walks too many guys, though. 9.3% walk rate, 1.33 whip. So there's guys on base. So if somebody does get to him for a home run, it's most likely going to be a multi-run home run and do some damage to you. He's one I would probably, if I'm over the field by a little bit, fields is like 3.5% on FanDuel. If I'm a little over that, I don't really mind it. I think there's enough potential upside, and he's going kind of under-owned here. I don't love it, though. I would probably prefer to grab some of the Royals power bats where they're under-owned, like a guy like Jorge Soler. I know he's been slumping. I keep mentioning him, and he keeps slumping, but only 2% ownership with his ridiculous power from the right-hand side of the plate when he's going right against the lefty. I don't mind doing that. So I think I would prefer to target some of his contact metrics and go that way.
Are we targeting the Detroit Tigers? Number 2 on my last refresh. Let me hit F5 again. We'll see if there's any update on top stacks. Yeah, number 2 and the top stack metric on DraftKings for today, basically tied with Tampa Bay at the top. But the Tigers are pulling significantly more ownership than the Rays are. So much so, in fact, that they have a slightly negative leverage score. How do you manage the Tigers for today?
I am happy to leave them on the table for the field once again. I know that they've been doing well over the last 3 weeks, month, whatever it is. I wrote about it yesterday. It's some smoke and mirrors. They've gone up against some weak pitching over that same sample where they've been doing a little bit better in terms of run creation. Their hard hit rate has actually dropped. Their strikeout rate has climbed. Like there are under the covers indicators that say that this is a lot of smoke and mirrors that's been going on with this Tigers team. So I still don't trust them. I still think they're one of the worst offenses in baseball. I still think they strike out way too much. I just don't want to be a part of it with that much ownership on them. If they were going up against a pitcher that people were rostering and people weren't getting to the bats on the other side, then maybe it would be a targetable spot. But it's just, for me, it's just not. If the Tigers beat me today, I'm happy to let the field have them.
Yeah, I'm a little bit lighter than the field is showing right now with that negative leverage and the other opportunities. I mean, just someone like Toronto right out of the gate getting no ownership. I'd rather just go that direction than go to an already owned Tigers team. Yep. I'll happily just have a little bit more of the Royals too, who to me look fine. I mean, they're properly owned middle of the pack top stack odds, but I think there are individual bats that you could pull out of the Royals and really like it. Weird game today. I don't really know what I'm cheering for. It's probably in my best interest to just have the Tigers be innocuous.
Yeah, I think if the Tigers are held down here, then based on what we've been talking about, if you're following us, then you're probably going to do fairly well here. Agreed on the Royals side. I mean, I mentioned Sal Perez with the over on that projection. He's the only Royals bat drawing over 10% ownership on FanDuel. Everybody on that team is under 10% on the DK slate by a wide margin. 3,100 on FanDuel too for Sal Perez. That's why he's drawing all that ownership. Significant upside in that price. And you get fair pricing and low ownership on the rest of that stack. So that's going to be a go-to along with the Jays and the Rays for me.
2 more games to go before we get out of here. I am pasting over my most recent updated sim now that we have Cubs lineup. That was the last one that came in. And speaking of the Cubs, they aren't next. They are the final team. Twins and Angels are next, however. This is a coin flip game, 5 runs on both sides. Bailey Obert, Jaime Barria. Neither guy getting any ownership. Is this a spot where you're targeting any pitching? Barria, 5,500? Is it crazy? It's probably crazy.
6 innings pitched, 3.6% strikeout rate, 17.9% walk rate. That's obviously a lot of just nonsense there. I don't really think we need to go to it. I just think there's opportunity cost if you start doing that, right? I think there are better mid-range pitchers, better cheap guys on the board that we don't need to go to Jaime Barria here. There's a diminished Twins lineup overall, taking Nelson Cruz out of it and getting some of these young guys in here. But I think there's just enough power, enough hitters of significance going up against him. Not to say that I want to get to the Twins necessarily, because they're drawing huge ownership marks in that spot. So I think for me, it's just kind of a no on the Angels pitcher and a no on the Twins bats.
I have the Twins 8th in my top stack metric, which is basically just sort of where they are on ours. They're slightly over-owned. I don't mind getting to Max Kepler, but he's already at 16% ownership on DK, 19% on FanDuel. These guys are a lot more owned on FanDuel than they are on DraftKings. If I had some, it's fine by me. It's clearly a nice spot to target, but I think the ownership is sort of already there, and there's just enough other places to find leverage. I don't like a lot here. I mean, really, and I assume we both like Ohtani, but it doesn't really matter.
Who? Haven't heard of him.
Ohtani. Yeah, gotcha. I bid on that.
So, if you're going to the Angels, it's those top few hitters, right? You're getting to David Fletcher and his on-base skills, his hit tool, getting on base in front of Ohtani, Upton, and Walsh, the home run hitters in that lineup. All 3 of those guys have significant home run marks in my model today. So Ohtani's the top-ranked guy in my home run model. Jared Walsh is right there near the top, and Upton is pushing it as well. If you're looking for other guys to build into the stacks, because those guys are drawing some popularity, I think Brandon Marsh is still interesting. Hasn't done much in his 24 plate appearances, but he's a premium prospect in that like 15-ish home run and maybe 20 stolen bases kind of a range. So he's got multiple skill sets for DFS scoring. He just hasn't shown it to us yet. I don't hate the Angel stacks, but the guys that I really, really want to get to are drawing popularity.
Yeah. And like, if you're making an Angel stack, you got to have Ohtani. 6,400 on DraftKings. That is a healthy price tag. Anything else here?
No, just if you're looking for Twins one-offs, maybe like Trevor Larnach in the middle of that lineup is somewhat interesting. If he's hitting cleanup, lefty righty, only 2,800 on the DK slate, 25 on the FanDuel slate, a little bit of pop. That's really, I would look to one-off Twins and not really stack them.
Closing it out now before we turn this one over to the live before lock crew. Cubs and D-backs, 5-run implied total for the Cubbies, 3.9 for Arizona. It's Trevor Williams. It's Caleb Smith. Caleb Smith is pulling a ton of ownership on the last go-round. How do you feel about that ownership for Caleb Smith? Because if I'm being honest, I don't agree with it.
Yeah, at best, it's not comfy. So that's 7,400 on DK, 23-ish% ownership. I prefer his ownership mark on FanDuel, where he's only pulling like 5% for a lower price tag. It's not a spot for me, I don't think. I don't think I need to get there on FanDuel. If I was on DK, maybe, but like not with that ownership. The Cubbies strike out a lot against lefties, 26% strikeout rate, and he's a decent strikeout guy, not a the extreme upside guy, but a 25.7% strikeout rate. So maybe, matching strikeouts there. But the Cubbies hit lefties like crazy for power. 4.42% home run rate is fourth or so best in baseball, 184 team ISO. Freight runs 4% better than average. So it's not a team I really like to throw lefties into. Just looking at their lineup, it looks like it's the basically normal version of the lineup. So yeah, not really a spot I'm all that excited about.
I am actively interested in the Cubs in a pretty aggressive manner, particularly because of the ownership to Caleb Smith, which I don't totally agree with. I have the Cubs as my number 3 stack on FanDuel, number 4 on DraftKings. I would like to get them pretty aggressively. They're not pulling any real ownership. I think they're super easy to get to. Only Anthony Rizzo as the lefty bat going up against Caleb Smith, also a lefty. Righty power plays a lot better in Chicago than lefty power does. So that works out pretty well for a lineup chock full of righties. I mean, I have guys like, I had Javi Baez show up in 9% of lineups. He's a 1% ownership. Wilson Contreras, I had show up in 9% of lineups. He's a 2% ownership. 10% for Chris Bryant. He's only at 5% ownership on DK. To me, getting to the Cubs, the upside of the Cubs looks great. And the fact that if something's going wrong for Caleb Smith, 30% of the field is dead, and that's pushing your stack up. To me, the Cubs are my favorite team to get to, just putting the pieces together. They're not the raw top team. They are third, but given Caleb Smith's ownership and the leverage that you get by going up on the opposite side of that, I think the Cubs are my priority team for today.
I think that's a great call. Yeah, anytime you can attack a quarter of the field with some upside bats, I think it's a great move here. I like their pricing on the FanDuel slate a little bit better. Javi Baez is a little difficult to get to at 6,100. You're talking about a near Ohtani level price, but he's produced 22 home runs on the season, 242 ISO, creating runs 6% better than the average, 245, 291, 488. Leaves a little to be desired in the hitting on base department, but that's not really what he's paid to do when he's hitting cleanup here. So yeah, absolutely, you can combine them. I wouldn't leave Patrick Wisdom out with his extreme power upside. Dude's got 14 home runs and 155 plate appearances, a 319 ISO, 6 hit power for the, I think he's around 30 years old. He's a non-prospect, but he's been performing. So yeah, I like getting to the Cubbies, and I like attacking that Caleb Smith ownership.
I have no real interest in anything from the Diamondbacks. So anything you want to touch on there before we get out of here?
No, if you wanted to go there, I get okay marks on Eduardo Escobar and Cole Calhoun for a home run. Nothing. It's just not a team that I like to get to, really. I don't think they're a very good offense, and no real name brand hitters, not a ton of power. So yeah, not really a spot for me.
11 games up, 11 games down. Anything you want to hit from a summary level? Favorite stacks, favorite pitchers?
You know what? Honestly, I wasn't on my radar when we started this show, but I think that Cubbies spot is super interesting now that we're digging into it a little bit more. So I'm going to look into that a little bit as we go on. But overall, for me, I wrote up the Red Sox in my article, which is free up on the site, the tournament strategy article. Really like the spot for the Red Sox going up against my Yankees. I'll be focused on Red Sox. I'll be focused on Tampa. We talked about KC. I'll be getting to some of them along with Toronto. Those are my probably 4 primary focus stacks for the day. If I didn't say Houston in there, they should also be on the list.
There we go, everybody. Thank you for joining us for the MLB Deeper Dive. We are up over 200 likes, so thank you very much for that. Don't go anywhere. Stay right here on this stream. Eric and Eric coming up right now. MLB Live Before Lock. It's like the better version of Mike and Mike. Good luck tonight, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. We will talk to you a little later.
One of these times he's going to put us in early. All right, here we go. Awesemo. It's your old pal EMac, joined by one Eric Lindquist. Team Eric back together. It's been a long time since we've been together, my friend. How are you doing today?
EMac 2024, all day, every day. Get those ballots in, people. It's time. It is time for our guy EMac to rise to the top, to lead our country to freedom, or just help us win some money.
All right, good news. It looks like Jordan actually did turn the camera on early as I was dancing. So there we go.
Yeah, you look like a real special. I mean, that was the perfect drunk wedding uncle kind of move. It was lovely.
That's the only kind of move I have.
Yeah, the few, the proud, the one dance move.
All right. Well, I see we are sponsored today by both PrizePicks and Nike. We've got the swoosh, twin swoosh shirts going on. I have like two shirts that have Nike logos on it, and this is one of them. So fortuitous that I happen to wear this today. How's everything else been going? You, a little golf this weekend, a little bit of a disaster.
No, actually, yeah, no golf this weekend, which is weird. I haven't actually been. This is probably the least amount. I mean, part of it is I'm really enjoying doing a lot of the stuff we have for MLB. NBA just wrapping up is nice. Gives me a little extra time here and there, but still focusing on PGA. This weekend was going great until Ricky Fowler made a triple on 18 yesterday, one of the easier holes on the golf course at TPC Twin Cities. So that was a huge bummer, but otherwise, just trying to keep the grind going all the time.
All right, making fun of my hair. There's not much left, and I need to get it cut. I've got like 8 cowlicks going on. I had a hat on this morning, took the dog out, and it's just kind of going everywhere. It's the humidity, right? It makes my hair all frizzy. Not that I have curly hair, but let's get into today's action here. We had a nice show.
I missed you so much.
We had a nice show in front of us by Josh and, of course, Josh's dad, breaking down the MLB slate there game by game. We're going to hit some of the highlights here. We, of course, are brought to you by PrizePicks. We'll talk about them throughout the show, but I do want to remind everybody that if you use the promo code Awesemo, they will match you up to $100 with your deposit. You put in 10, they'll give you 10. You put in 100, they'll give you 100. You put in 200, they're still going to give you 100, but that is going to be the best deal out there, immediately doubling your money. That's not a bad way to go. All right, Eric, let's talk a little bit here at the top end. I've got my tiers in for my lineups. I had some tiers last night. Fortunately, I went to bed early for late for me, early for you guys, about 10:20. I finally called it quits. Everything I said on baseball yesterday, if I had done the exact opposite, it would have been a great day.
Sometimes that's exactly what you're supposed to do. That's why you play both sides of it too, because we try to project this out as much as possible, but we're playing range of outcome games. We're trying to cast a net in a certain direction. And sometimes that direction can seem counterintuitive, but it's kind of the same thing. Play the pitcher, play the stack. If you're super high on one spot, you got to find points of leverage, because really what happened is like the field's gotten so much sharper at baseball over the years. And so trying to pin down, nobody's going to stack against you, Darvish or Aaron Nola today. I think I could probably talk myself into a little bit of Aaron Nola targeting. Also same thing with the Cubbies bats. That was kind of the last thing that they left off from the last show. I think that that's a fantastic take, especially a team that has enough right-handed power that exists in that lineup. Caleb Smith is not that good of a pitcher, and he's 7,400. He's being played by default because he feels the most secure in his range because he had one good game last time out. Those are the times you want to be on the other side of it. So I definitely, I'm sorry yesterday did not go well for you, but that's just kind of the nature of the beast of MLB.
Yeah, it is. The one thing I did is I ended up winning about 20 tickets on DK for their $3 NFL best ball. So now I've got 70. The downside,
so now you have a lot more work ahead of you, is what
it's a 20 max contest. So I have like $53 tickets I can't use anywhere. Apparently I'll be reaching out to customer support and for forgiveness, perhaps some DK bucks or some DK $3 tickets, or the ability to hand them out to you guys, because I don't know what I'm going to do with those 50 extra tickets if I've already put the 20 in the contest that you can do. But I've been looking at a lot of our best ball content here at Awesemo. Very helpful. We, of course, have 2 new Awesemo YouTube channels. We have the Awesemo fantasy football channel, as well as the Awesemo Odds Fantasy channel. Those are both on YouTube here. A lot of times that will be pinned at the top of our, what do we call it? Pinned at the top of the chat here, which it is right now. So that's very helpful. Been listening to a lot of stuff by Dave Lochran and, of course, Matt Gajeski. That would be Lofty D for you guys playing along at home. And then, of course, looking at Alex's rankings for best ball. He has them for all the sites, all the formats, regular season as well. What he does is he has taken his DFS model, played out all 17 games across the 18 weeks, and then ranked the players accordingly. So there will be a lot of differences between what he has and what some of the ADP, that's average draft position, as well as industry consensus. That is what we need to have in order to be different in some of these gigantic tournaments. But let's focus on some of these gigantic tournaments that we have today. Eric, we have baseball, of course, across the board, 3 solid slates here. We're seeing a little bit of an uptick in the prize pool sizes because there is no more NBA this weekend. There's NASCAR going on and really not much else. So we have some larger prize pools that we haven't seen in a little bit of a while. Enjoy those now, because once NFL arrives, there's basically not going to be Sunday MLB DFS. Who is, or let's start off with pitchers here. So you, Darvish, clearly the number one. He's at 10-5 on DK, 10-3 on FanDuel, 52 on Yahoo. Nola, probably our second best option. The one concern that we have here, Jordan, I am now. Jordan was asking me if I'm hardwired. He knows that I am actually plugged into the router. Unlike other co-hosts and hosts here that mention that they are connected, they're really connected on wireless. And Jordan can always tell if you're lagging and dropping frames. So there we go. Connected. Okay, so Aaron Nola here. The issue we have, he's allowed multiple home runs in 4 of his last 7 starts. That would be 2 in each of those. He's still getting a lot of strikeouts. In those games, I believe he had like 12, 11, 9, 8, and then I think 2 and 4, something along there. The Braves, not quite as enticing as they were once upon a time. They are missing a few key hitters, one due to injury, one due to being an idiot. And then the other thing that's wild, well, I mean, we're not going to get into that, but don't be nice to people. That's what you need to know. Be nice to people. I don't know what to do. And I was looking, thinking, oh, they're still trying, Eric, because they got a chance at the wild card. And then I went to look at the wild card standings, and the Dodgers are 2.5 ahead of the Padres for the 2 wild card spots. I said, well, that's kind of weird. Oh, I forgot the Giants are ahead of both of them. Talk about a stacked NFC doing a little football.
I'm enjoying this. NL West. Yeah. I got
NL West. But the interesting thing here is at some point we're going to see the Braves. They could trade away some of these other players that they have. They went to get Peterson and Stephen Vogt, but what's the point? They're such a long shot. They're 8 and 10.5 behind the second wild card spot. So there's just no real reason to go from here. They had about what I was expecting for their Sunday lineup, but it's not that crazy. I mean, once you get to Dansby Swanson, the rest of this team's a joke. And even though they did put up 15 runs yesterday, that was Vincent Velasquez, who's not a great pitcher. And then Ronald Torres, the second baseman, got the final 5 outs of the game, allowing 4 earned runs.
Yes.
What are we doing here? Talk to me about
Aaron Nola thing. The Aaron Nola thing is interesting on this slate, and I'm playing a little bit more over on FanDuel as a result of it. So he's going to come in a little bit more popular over there because his price tag is all the way down at $9,100, and people are taking that $1,200 savings. He's going to be crazy high owned over there. I'm just going to short him at every turn that I can. I think on DraftKings, him and Darvish, they make a lot of sense. If you compare them together, you're kind of forced into a lot of the same teams. I think that's kind of the way it is when you are paying up for 10K plus teams. And Texas Rangers make it really easy, but I don't like the Texas Rangers by any means. So good luck with that. Aaron Nola is a guy who has a great strikeout acumen, 29% here on the season. But the 412 expected slugging for me, there's definitely a Jekyll and Hyde element that isn't expressed in the ownership right now. I just think he's over-owned on both sides, 27.8% over on FanDuel. I think it could even come in a little bit higher. Now, I'm just going to side with Darvish. I'm going to find the 1,200, and I'm going to go over top of the 29% we have on FanDuel for him. I just think it's such a more secure spot going up against the Miami Marlins. This lineup is not good. And 25.4% strikeout percentage against righties on the season, only 87 WRC plus, a 136 ISO, third worst in baseball, actually only 0.001 behind the Pittsburgh Pirates and Arizona Diamondbacks. That is not good company to be in. So I'm definitely targeting the matchup. Again, Darvish has not been great here out of the gate, but I'm happy to fire him up in bulk today on both sites.
Yeah, and when we say a little uneven out of the gate, his last 3 starts, Darvish has been a little bit of everywhere here. And this is the get right spot. Miami, bottom 5 WRC plus against righties. They're leading the league with 25%, or 6th highest with 25% strikeout rate, and they're worst in the league with the 138 ISO. It means they really have no power. The one thing I do want to point out with Darvish, even though it doesn't feel like we trust him and we think so highly of him that it seems like when he has bad games, it seems like they're just awful. Do you realize this year he's 17th in the league with a 1 WHIP, and he's 11th with his 3.09 ERA? I mean,
I'm aware of how good of a pitcher he is. Yeah. What happens is that either in big spots, things are amplified, and if somebody doesn't look great, like the Game 7 of the World Series for the Dodgers, that's ingrained in your mind where Darvish gets lit up in the first. They were going to start Kershaw. And if you're a baseball fan, that's the kind of stuff that you think of with Darvish. You don't see how good he is throughout the duration of a regular season. Cubs kind of have different timings for their games. So sometimes you don't always get those in the primetime slots. So when he was with the Cubs, you might have missed how good he was there. And then now he's in San Diego, late night games. It just seems as though maybe the public doesn't pick up on him the same way they do for Jacob deGrom in primetime. And again, Jacob deGrom's in another stratosphere, so there's that. But even like Aaron Nola, Zach Wheeler, Max Scherzer, playing on the East Coast, playing in the primetime spots, like you get more exposure to them. You see them more often. And so Darvish, maybe going a little bit underneath the microscope in that regard, or maybe he's under the microscope as a result because people play him at DFS and you can get some of the Jekyll and Hyde spots. But overall, I think it's going to kind of stabilize a little bit. He's a fantastic pitcher, and there's really nothing in this spot specifically that you could say, I don't want to, like, how would you not want to target him more against the Marlins than Aaron Nola up against Atlanta in this spot? For me, it's not close. And
absolutely. And that's, I mean, the only things you have going kind of against Nola, I guess, would be pitching in Citizens Bank Ballpark and uneven performance, but that's because he challenges hitters so often. That's how you get the high strikeout rate, and that's the cost of doing business. You do give up some home runs in those cases. The one other thing that we want to point out here is the current hitters for the Braves. They have a paltry 183 average against Nola with the 222 on base percentage. That means they get on base 1 out of every 5 times. Their slugging, it's below 300. 297. When was the last time you saw a full lineup of interleague play with 100 and whatever at bats, and they have a below 300 slugging? Not even on base percentage.
Pretty bad. Pretty awful.
All right, let's move down the pricing list here just a tick, because now we're going to Sonny Gray. Now, Sonny Gray is, yep. I wasn't exactly sure what to do with him. 9,800 on DK. Definitely like him over Zach Greinke for the $200 discount. He's $200 more on FanDuel. I think I would still like Sonny Gray over Zach Greinke there at 8,600. And then he's $2 less on Yahoo. Once again, I'm going with Sonny Gray. Am I besmirching the good name of Zach Greinke? No. The 1 mile an hour differential between his fastball and changeup for the 3rd straight year. Hey, it's working for him, apparently. But what do you want to do here with Sonny Gray? He's speaking of uneven performances. We've certainly seen that with him, not just this season, but throughout his career at a myriad of stops.
Yeah, if Sonny Gray does not pitch well, it's going to be a bad day for me because he's my highest exposed pitcher on the slate on FanDuel. So I think that's going to just kind of, I'm playing pretty much a lot of Darvish, a lot of Sonny Gray, and that's kind of going to be my entire day. We'll talk about a guy on DK that I think is really, really interesting, and I want to get your take on him as well as the cheapie, as the pivot off of the Caleb Smith exposure. Not that you have to be pivoting like crazy. It comes down to your bats, really, like making sure you get the lower owned stacks and lower owned batters. They make up a bulk of your lineup, but the pitching is more predictable, or at least it was once upon a time. But I feel pretty confident in going to Sonny Gray here in this spot. Pretty heavy righty team. So the Cardinals don't really have any choices unless they bring Matt Carpenter out there. They're forced to only ever have Dylan Carlson and Tommy Edman as their switch hitters here. And Sonny Gray going up against the Cardinals, yes, it's a great hitting environment in a great ballpark, but Sonny Gray does all the things that you really want in this spot. The launch angle's underneath 10. That's decent enough. 30% hard hit percentage keeps that low here. Going to be facing primarily right-handed pitching, 330 expected slugging, and a 29.7% K percentage. It seems as though this matches up a little bit better for me than Nola does against Atlanta. So I'm just kind of taking whatever I would have been doing with Nola, and I'm just turning it into more Sonny Gray. I think that for me is going to be my bigger stand on this entire slate.
All right, so let's go to Caleb Smith here as we chat through things. We'll circle back on Greinke, but let's just hit Greinke right now. Not a lot of upside. Good matchup. Just I'm really not excited. We need strikeouts in daily fantasy. So
whenever you roster Greinke, and I say this a lot, I feel as though he's basically saying, I hope the rest of his range fails, and he goes deep into this game and just outperforms them by going 8 innings, 4 Ks, and just kind of limits a lot of the damage. Does the textbook Zach Greinke 2021 kind of stuff. Limits hard contact, underneath 34% on that for the season. Still giving up a 408 expected slugging. So when people are hitting it, there's still some opportunity that exists for the other side of it. I'm not completely against Texas at their price. Like they just are so cheap on DraftKings. And if you're going to pair Nola and Darvish or try to do something unique in that standpoint, I think Texas makes sense as the team to do it. I'm just choosing not to go that route. I might have like one of my 20 lineups over on DK where I do that, but definitely not gearing up there. For me, it just comes down to how come you would want to pay what's his price here today over on DK. Zach Greinke's 10K. Why would you want to be paying 10K for a guy with an under 20% K percentage who actually has a decent enough X slugging that could go against him? 408? That's a hefty number. He limits the walks. He doesn't get in a lot of trouble ever, but maybe those numbers go up a little bit against this Texas team where there are definitely Ks on one side of it. Joey Gallo, 32%, Eli White, 30%, David Dahl, 27.3% in that lineup, Nathan Loud, 26.6%. But even the back half of it, whether it's, Heim in the 5-hole hold, like those guys have underneath 20%. I just don't see Zach Greinke having enough upside unless he just throws a complete game shutout here, which God forbid that happens at 10K. And then you win all the money if you rostered him. But I just can't do it on this slate. If it were a different slate where there was scarce pitching up top, where I didn't like some of the spots for these guys, whether like if it was Yu Darvish against a potent team or something like that, maybe I could talk myself into some Greinke. I just can't on this slate.
How about Zach Greinke for a no-hitter today? He needs one. Cap off his career.
No.
Please
God, no. No. Just no.
All right. You know what we say? Please, God, no. That's what happens when Caleb Smith is not finding the strike zone.
Yep.
Because he walks a lot of players. He is basically a poor man's Robbie Ray, the bad Robbie Ray, not this year's Robbie Ray. So Caleb Smith's quite interesting. I thought we would get a little bit more of a watered down lineup here from the Cubs. I thought they may sit Baez or Bryant or anybody else that they might be looking to move before the deadline, which is, of course, less than a week away for the trade deadline, that is. So I was a little surprised to see their what is their current best lineup going against Smith. Smith is getting a ton of ownership here, which is just seeing his popularity surge, not exactly getting the warm and fuzzies here. I didn't get so far as to start to look at the Cubs. However, as you mentioned, at the end of the last show, they were hitting on that. And with Caleb Smith here, his last start into the All-Star break, he made it 3 outs, 1 inning against the Dodgers, allowed 3 home runs, 9 earned runs. And then I think it was almost like 10 days ago he started, or 8 days ago, he went against Pittsburgh, had 6 2/3 innings, 7 strikeouts, just 2 runs allowed. The truth is probably somewhere in the middle, but we never see that. We either see good or awful. We like that for tournaments, but there is risk. This could be a both sideser, or are you you were kind of hinting at you may be going away from Caleb Smith. Would that be Dick Mountain that you're looking to climb today?
Wow, no. That is not where I'm going. And don't ever repeat that in public ever again. We are on a stream. I'm EMac. I have jokes. It's fine. I love you. Caleb Smith, 7,400.
You have the funny voice. You can't do the funny voice for other people. The funny voice is you.
All right, so Caleb Smith, 25.7% K percentage on the season. Absolutely understand why he's getting ownership, but it's how much ownership he's getting here. He's going way over owned for his top 2 pitcher percentage. That is kind of what I'm keying in on. 15.3% on DraftKings here, top 2 percentage, 32% ownership we're projecting for him right now. I just need to get in a spot like it would have to come down to around sub 20% for me to start getting interested in going that direction. They have a 5.2 implied team total. Like that's a gigantic team total here for the Cubs today. It's 85 degrees, afternoon game there in Wrigley. So a little bump up for the bats in that regard too. And Anthony Rizzo is the only left-handed bat in that lineup. And there's power that exists. Even Marisnik, Wisdom in the middle there, David Bodie, I don't know what it is. Like Wilson Contreras, Chris Bryant, Javi Baez. I'm just surprised to see how much ownership is going to him. And it makes me really kind of also like Caleb Smith could get 15, 16 DraftKings points. And if I go cheaper, and it gives me access to bats that other people can't get to. I can play more of Houston. I can play more of Toronto. I can play more of the big boppers on Tampa Bay, on Boston. I have access to so much more. So I've got a couple guys. I've got like 2 guys down here below Caleb Smith that even if Caleb Smith pitches decent, I think that there's leverage to be had just because I get some extreme salary savings, especially with my one guy, Tiki Toussaint. Let's go.
Oh boy.
Oh yeah.
Really? I was not expecting to.
I know you weren't. I just wanted to. I want to give a little preview as we're working down, but he's in 20% of my lineups, and that's just kind of what we're going to do today on DraftKings, not on FanDuel. Yeah, I'm not touching him on FanDuel.
Right. And of course, the whole FanDuel thing is you really just want to look at the top 4 or 5 pictures on FanDuel, full stop. You used to sometimes dance down with that Tiki Toussaint type level, but their hitters are so cheap there that it really doesn't matter anymore, and you don't really have to entertain those types of things. Tiki Toussaint, one of my favorites, because I do have him in my Dynasty League where I am going against Mr. Terry T. McBride.
All right. So, well, I'm very excited to recommend him to you today. So that when
he's on my bench this week.
9 runs in the first inning, you can blame me. It's fine. It's fine.
Yikes! Wow, I did not see that one. I did not see that one even on the radar. So Rich Hill, that's going to be a no for you, dog.
It's a definite no for me, dog. I don't pick on Toronto, and I don't pick on a lefty facing Toronto. I just a throw slowing. Curveball driven post sticky tack Rich Hill that Tampa Bay, the smartest, most analytically driven team that made a move to get Nelson Cruz, is now discarding Rich Hill. No, thank you.
All right. I was waiting to see if you would take the Nelson Cruz pain first, or if I was going to hand that out.
Oh no, we're both biting our lips and calling it a day with Nelson Cruz. We're both rostering him. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, he's having had him on my favorite team, the Mariners, for a long time. It's a fun player to root for. My condolences to you not having him on the Twins. By the way, let's talk a little bit as we sort of transition here into stacks. Just hitting the weather real quick. Just some weather on the East Coast. Nothing that is going to be at a postponement risk, but you've got Baltimore, Boston, New York, and Philadelphia that could see some later inning rain. I suspect that they'll probably just continue to play through whatever it is because it's Sunday and just finish up the games. But if they do get 7-8 innings in, they could call it early if necessary, but I don't think it impacts any of our decision making. Let's jump to the 2:00 games. Quite rich with offenses here. I do want to commend you for breaking up that no hitter in the 9th inning when you were batting there for your Twins last night. What one? Wow! I did not see that one coming. And could we get exact opposite pitching today from both sides with Ober, who there's some talent there. He's going to have to learn. And then I'm blanking on it, not Suarez. Jaime Barria is going to be pitching. He's probably better off with the Salt Lake City Bees, the AAA squad for the Angels. He just has a lot of issues, shall we say.
Yeah, we're going to target the Twins. We're going to target the Twins.
He's got reverse splits, but he's still bad against the lefties. He does not have much of a fastball. He doesn't have a lot of movement on his pitches. Not sure why he's back up with the Angels, but here we are. What do you want to do with this game, and why is it play both sides?
The answer is play both sides. Well, I mean, you're not playing the one side being either of the pitchers for me.
No.
This is all just play the hitters, and there's some positive leverage that exists on both of them too. it is such a good spot here for both offenses. And the nice part too is you're going to find savings by default with both teams too, because they're just watered down lineups. It's 90 degrees. Wind is blowing out 10 miles an hour in Target Field. These are two of my 5 favorite offenses to be targeting on this entire slate, which always feels like a cop-out to say, oh, 2 of my favorite 5. But like when I'm going to be going on to some cheaper pitchers to try to make room for the likes of Toronto bats, Houston bats, and then obviously Kansas City's in a fantastic spot again there, 90 degrees, 62% humidity. We saw what happened yesterday there. And Skubal, definitely a guy who can create some Ks and look nice from a DFS perspective, but also can get lit up here. And a lot of righties in that Kansas City lineup, but I digress. We're talking Angels and Twins. I just like both sides of this. I think with the Angels, the thing that's difficult is outside of going to Ohtani, Upton, Walsh, Marsh, and maybe Fletcher if you want in there. I'm a mark for Adam Eaton, probably still going to be rostering some of him in the 8-hole here today too at a flat 2K on DK. I don't know. It doesn't look like the most potent offense here, period. But Bailey Ober's been okay to this point. He's got some pedigree, but 440 expected slugging. There's some Ks that exist for him there, but not against this lineup that I'm seeing right now. 20-degree launch angle. Like if a couple of these guys, specifically Ohtani and Upton, can get a hold of a couple, it could be a very, very bad afternoon for Bailey Ober. And on the other side of it, as you said, Jaime Barria. I mean, what are we doing here, Angels? What are you possibly seeing in this guy that you want to be rostering? So I know that no Nelson Cruz in the lineup is a steep downgrade to the Twins. Steep, but Trevor Larnach is 2.8K. Going to probably be in the cleanup hole, possibly 2-hole today. Sign up for that. Jake Cave back. It's just kind of all systems go for the top half of both these lineups.
All right. You mentioned Adam Eaton. Do you know how the Angels acquired him?
Well, he just got designated for assignment by the White Sox.
Off of waivers, because the White Sox, who are just missing everybody on offense, were like, it's been great, Mighty Mouse. He's
not a winner. Like, you have Gavin Sheets comes in there. Gavin Sheets is a better hitter. I'm not going to done it at this point in their careers. But Adam Eaton was very underrated for a long duration of his career. I will.
World Series winner, Adam?
Yeah, World Series 2-hole in the World Series winning team, Adam Eaton. Hit both sides, too. I mean, Adam Eaton was just underrated.
Yeah, that I would agree with. But yeah, I thought, oh, wow, I wonder what they traded for him. Oh, nothing. A bag of baseballs. No, you don't even need that. Just pay the rest of his salary. We're good.
Oh, my God.
Let's see here. A couple others I wanted to hit. So let's talk PrizePicks for a second here. So the fun thing about PrizePicks is that you can create your own parlay cards with a fantasy twist. So you're playing against the lines that they're setting. But the nice thing is you don't always have to, you can do, hits plus walks, rebounds, points, assists. When we're looking at basketball, you can do different game totals, things like that. They dance on the edge of fun, especially if you're in states that aren't quite ready to have sports wagering. This is about as close as you can get. But the nice thing is they put a DFS twist on it. So most of their baseball and basketball and soon to be football contests, you can also take their lines for fantasy points and you can choose over or under. So if you put together your parlay card, 2, 3, 4, or 5 options, you pick 5, get all 5 right, you get 10x of your entry fee here. It's a fun way to play the sports. So their fantasy point scoring, same as FanDuel, but that makes it easy because we already have those projections. We can check that out. I do like their hitting options. Their pitching numbers, I think, are usually pretty sharp. The 2 that I did call out today were, they have John Means. And this may have changed because they do change their lines and their marks. But when I took this 45 minutes ago, they have John Means at 25.5 for FanDuel points. He's going against the Nationals, who do get the designated hitter, which I don't have their lineup page up, but I believe that'll be Ryan Zimmerman, since they are in Baltimore here. The nice thing about that is that it just makes their lineup that much better. I don't think he's fully stretched out, so we may not see him go more than 3 or 4 innings. So I kind of liked looking at the under. However, the Awesemo projections still have him at 24.6, which there's not a lot of wiggle room there. The biggest disparity I found was Martin Perez. The PrizePicks fantasy point line was 22. Awesemo has him at 16.5. He's going against the Yankees, of course. For hitters, we've got a couple nice ones here from the Cincinnati side. You've got Jesse Winker with 8 fantasy points. Awesemo has him at 14.5. Now, of course, the baseball ones, there's going to be a fair amount of disparity, but do you think all Winker needs is an extra base hit and an RBI? and he's going to get that. Now, he broke his slump last night at the slump buster, if you will, 3 for 4, double and a home run. He'd gone 18 games without a home run, but he gets that matchup against Johan Oviedo today. I like that one. You get Joey Votto, nice matchup again, same one. He only needs 7 points. We know he's an on-base machine. This year, he's having his best power numbers since the 2017 season. Average has gone down a little bit, but at least he's still getting doubles. He got a home run himself last night, so he's doing all right. And then Yordan Alvarez is 8 on his. He is going to go against a combination of, I'm blanking on the name of their lefty pitcher that is starting out the game, but rumor has it it's Michael Fultonevich, the righty who's coming in. How many home runs do you think Michael Fultonevich has allowed this season?
Let's go with 15. That sounds like a dumb number.
Do you want to go dumb and dumberer?
Sure. 22.
31.
What?
Yes.
That is so bad.
It's like it's not impossible, it's impossible. But he has allowed 31.
You get demoted after like 15, I guess, unless you were a former ace, which is kind of the way that you would view Mike Fultonevich in a vacuum. But this vacuum is a different vacuum. This is like the Hoover Extreme or something. I don't know. I went and looked at it 3 times. I think he's given up like 7 home runs in his last 9 innings that have lasted 3 appearances. I'm going off memory for that one, but it's horrible because I was trying to decide between the Astros and the Tigers, who are going against Daniel Lynch. But ultimately, I landed on the Motor City Kitties. We'll talk about them in just a minute here. But the Michael Fultonevich thing is crazy. But amongst those 3 players that are over there on PrizePicks, you can go to PrizePicks.com to the website. Of course, you can go to download their app in Google Play or the App Store as well. But Winker at 8, Votto at 7, and Yordan Alvarez at 8. I think all of those are overs in my opinion. My God, if it's Fulte, yeah. Terry McBride in the chat says that he's the worst pitcher in the league. I would say that, considering I lowballed his number by exactly half on how many home runs he's given up, yeah, it's probably not a great example of his pedigree going forward in his career. I mean,
Jaime Barea saying, no, I'll stick with my career numbers over yours.
Oh, my God. Oh, that is brutal. I already was super high on Houston, so that's not going to change. I have a ton of Houston. They are let me just get the exact number. It's always hard because you can go and see what the 5-man stacks are, but it always kind of matters the hitting exposure. They're for sure one of my 3 highest exposed teams over on DraftKings. There's no question about that. And on FanDuel, they are my 2nd highest exposed team. So I was already there for them. Oh my Lord. Am I happier to hear that too? And make sure for me, Brantley's kind of a guy I've been a little bit lighter on in the 2-hole lately. Seems like he's hitting for a pretty decent average, but just not a lot of pop. Hasn't been putting up a ton of games here of late. 10.4 degree launch angle. I mean, every one of these Houston Astros can loft the ball up at a higher rate than that. Even going to McCormick, 421 expected slugging. Brantley, 487. It's not so bad. Just play all the Astros. Just play every single one except for Martin Maldonado, who I never play.
All righty. I see Arcathels is saying, did he answer my super chat? I didn't see one, but you don't have to put in another super chat. You've done a bunch of them. Put in your question there, Arcatelza, and we'll get to it straight away. Just put it into the YouTube chat, and we will get that in there for you. Let's talk a little bit about the Tigers. They're picking up steam in ways that we probably should not be surprised, especially when you consider their matchup. They're going against Daniel Lynch. So I'm going to get my notes here for Mr. Lynch. He has 8 innings this season so far with almost a 16 ERA, and he's averaging almost 3 base runners per inning. Now, to be fair, the pandemic sort of screwed up his learning curve. He was drafted out of Virginia, University of Virginia, first rounder, one of the sandwich round compensatory picks there. He has only pitched in A, rookie ball, and high A heading into this season. He broke camp with the team, wasn't quite working out for him, but he is a hard-throwing lefty. So they sent him down to AAA Oklahoma, I believe, where he was playing for the Storm Chasers. I got to love these minor league teams here. Storm Chasers and the Lugnuts are probably my 2 favorites. But he's back up today. So I'm not entirely sure what to do because I do know he's a good pitcher. He just has not seen this caliber of hitting talent. He was kind of thus far in AAA. But remember, he hasn't gotten any seasoning at all, basically, for the last year and a half. So that's a little bit tricky. But we look at the Detroit lineup here. Eric Haas, deal with the devil. Is that, I'm Team Eric, I guess, but how does he have a 444 isolated power in his 75 career at bats against lefties? I don't know.
Because he hits the ball really, really hard, EMac.
Yeah. And home runs, just nonstop home runs. So he's kind of interesting. Robbie Grossman leading off, 5 at bats, all but assured there. And then Jamer Candelario. Yeah. Miguel, 38-year-old. Miguel Cabrera.
Yeah. This is a team that I just short every time that they're popular. And I will live with the result. If they're popular, it's just there's not a lot that exists here. I will say today that they're coming in about as flat as they possibly could here at 7.2% top stack percentage, which puts them second here on the board for us. For me, it's like they also have to help other teams fail. You look at Toronto, look at Houston, look at Minnesota, look at the Angels. All of them, I feel like, are in comparable hitting spots. I mean, this is kind of a product of Daniel Lynch not being fantastic here. And then the game environment, 90 degrees, 60% humidity. Kansas City in the summer, in the end of July, is just a sweaty wasteland. I know I ended up in Wichita, Kansas this summer, not because I wanted to, but because of circumstances beyond my control. I had to spend a couple days in Wichita. And I can tell you, it just feels smarmy and gross, but the ball goes far in those kind of conditions. So I get it. If you're going to play them, I want to play Scope and Haas. I'm going to have a couple like 2-mans between those two. Candelario is fine. Grossman's fine. Castro's fine. I'd say that they're better than if you roster Hanser Alberto today. I don't know what you're doing with your life over in Kansas City. Everything I look at with this guy's power and numbers, like he's just not very good. He's 24.5% hard hit percentage. I know people don't like to go through and mess with a bunch of stuff in Cruncher, but you have to click the little 6 next to Kansas City and just not play him. It's just a rule. It's a rule.
Wait, for Grossman?
No. For Kansas City. I'm saying just Hanser Alberto. I'm saying the whole game is pretty playable, up and down both sides. But I mean, Hanser Alberto, I don't know why he ends up in the 6 hole for this Kansas City team. Grading out for me just horrendously. And it's stuff like that. Just making sure you don't have a couple of dead lineups if you're making 150 that have just poor hitters in them. That is a poor hitter. You're kind of just hoping it's a double and runs in a couple guys there. But I mean, he's not even like free either. He's 3.5K on DK. So I want to get rid of him there. But Detroit, this is probably as good of a spot as you'll find for Detroit, but I think they're going to come in pretty owned because they give you some of those savings, especially, looking at Cabrera, 2.9K, Grossman, 3.5K, Derek Hill. I don't know much about him. He's in the 9 hole. He's 2K flat. But there's another number of other 2K guys that I could play as well. Probably not going to be going his direction. Just be cognizant that they could end up even a little bit higher owned because they provide value. And we saw everybody go off from Detroit and Kansas City yesterday.
Yeah, and sorry, I had still had the projected lineup up. Grossman batting 6. That's where I got confused when you're saying cross out the 6. I'm like, wait, what? We're downgrading Grossman just because he dropped down.
Oh no.
Why they're starting Akil Baddoo at leadoff, I'm not sure. But hey, get him some extra opportunities here. Lefty.
And that's what it is. It's a team going nowhere. Give guys opportunity, and he's been doing it here for a while. He's been decent enough. Like I have no problem with them doing that. There's a lot of other things I will nitpick on managers for, but having a dude with a 28.8 sprint speed on StatCast, and I'm fine with that.
Some of his highlighted triples have been amazing, and I want to say he had an inside the park home run. I can't remember now for sure, but he's another guy on my dynasty league. I've got a couple guys that are good there. Team McBee. Just a couple. I got a lot of guys that are horrible. Inherited a team from a dynasty league that has been around for, I think, close to 20 years. So we got a goat side.
Rinpack saying that the Tigers are a dark horse pennant team. Yeah, in 2026, buddy. Good luck with that.
Guys, we are blessed to have Rinpack in our chat. Rinpack, very, very generous fellow. Look at this. He gave me a nice little Fred VanVleet jersey here because he knows my favorite player. So just thank you, Rinpack, for that. Want everybody to know that. And then also, we're 18 followers away from our next milestone on Twitter at Awesemo_COM. Rinpack behind the scenes heads up a lot of our social media and marketing stuff, amongst several other players that you know in front of the camera here. A lot of us have different roles here at Awesemo, but let's get that next milestone here for Rinpack. That'd be a nice one. I think is it 33,000, I believe. We're 18 away. So there we go. All right. Looking at some of the other options here that we have to talk about. Do you want to go a little bit more into?
Well, I haven't even talked about my Tiki Toussaint yet. And
let's do.
I'm kind of like
Tiki
sitting here
Toussaint.
waiting for DK because, again, if we're trying to save money and not just go the Caleb Smith route, you've got some uncomfortable spots like Bailey Ober against a watered down Angels team. I don't really want to be doing that. I think the K rate is at least decent enough to be going there. Some of these guys, I mean, Rich Hill, I'm not targeting against Toronto. People are saying Domingo Germán, absolutely not for me against Boston. That's not going to be a thing whatsoever. The one guy that I think we can click on underneath that 7K, and I feel the word is not confident. Okay, I do not feel confident, but he's 5,900. We saw a decent enough outing, 79 pitches, 23.4 DraftKings points up against San Diego last time out. San Diego, a better hitting team, I would say, than Philly. However, be it, I think Philly has probably a couple more potent lefties that can possibly get to him, specifically Bryce Harper, but I digress. Tiki Toussaint was not good in 2020, but neither were a lot of guys. We have to be writing off 2020 with an asterisk a lot of times. And that's just something that the more I dig into it, look at Matt Olson, his renaissance. It's not even a renaissance year. He's back to being who he was. Last year was a shit show for everybody up and down the world. Like it's not even looking at, it was just awful. So having baseball players, having guys who are mid-level baseball players, they were specifically kind of put in a bind where they're running around, going back and forth between AAA, the big leagues. I mean, he was only in the big leagues last year. He had a 7 expected ERA in 2020. So, I mean, he was bottom 4% of the league there. He was abysmal. But if you look at 2018, 2019, he was limiting barrels, 4.4% barrel percentage, 8.3 in 2019, limiting hard contact, and the K rate, 26%, 22.7%, 25% in those 3 seasons. Even in 2020, not very pretty. It was brutal. I think that we're looking at a spot here, 19.2%. I mean, he's had 1 appearance here. I don't know. That K rate's got a place to go up to around his career average, around 22, 23%. He's 5,900 against the Phillies. It feels like a spot that he can possibly just survive and give you those savings, and not just survive. Maybe we got Franmil Reyes scratched, by the way. Just want to throw that out there. But I just think that at 5,900, who else do we want to click on underneath there? I think there's a path to success for him. If he can kind of go back to his form he had in 2019 as opposed to 2020, we saw 1 start from here, threw the sinker a ton. Absolutely kind of a shock there. 64% of his pitches were sinkers in that last start out. I'm kind of not worried about some of the velocity issues here, around 94, 95 for the other pitches. But yeah, the sinker, if that thing is moving for him, I think that he could possibly see some more upside here. So I'm willing to take the shots on him. He's in 20% of my DK lineups right now, moving up towards 30%, just because I do think I want to get to more Houston bats now in this next run. Just want to throw him on the radar because if we throw out 2020, he's not the worst pitcher at that range.
All right, I want to. So the Arcathel's super chat was cheap, sneaky pitchers on DK and favorite bats on DK. So for the pitchers, I guess we're gonna have to go Tiki Toussaint on that one as an off the board. But you've laid out some reasons that I think he's viable on that one, and I think with where we're seeing the category sneaky kind of throws out this more or less the top 5 plays. But that's the thing about baseball is just because we're, looking at median projections and think you're one of the 5 best plays, it doesn't mean you can all, crap out. Similar to the what you brought up about Zach Greinke is you're hoping he's the best guy in his price point. It's possible today, not likely, but it is possible. You could see Darvish get stung a little bit, and you could certainly see Aaron Nola give up a couple home runs. And all of a sudden maybe it is Zach Greinke, but he would have.
He's 5,900 on the top pitcher tool. He's actually gained a little bit more traction. He's up to 2.6% over on DK, nearly a 6% chance of being a top 2 pitcher. I mean, if you're going away from Darvish, Nola, Gray, it gets uncomfortable. Like Zach Greinke, not the Ks you want at that number at 10K, and he's getting Then he's getting a number of ownership. Caleb Smith, 7,400, but there's a 5+ implied run total for Chicago. And then everybody else on the board is a question mark. So take the 5,900 question mark as opposed to the 8,600 Ross Stripling question mark or something like that.
Absolutely. Hey, we've got a bunch of people watching here, almost 800. You want to hit that like button? It would help us out. Love to see that run up to 300, especially here on a Sunday. Plus, that would be half the number that was handed over to us. I think they were around 200 is what Josh Engleman says. So, of course, I'm not as good at getting the likes as Josh, but come on. It's a Sunday. It's a Sunday fun day. You get to see my smiling face. You get to see Eric. We've got Team Eric here. It's a lot of fun. So hit us with a few likes here, and we will enjoy ourselves. We're about 18 minutes away from lock, which means it's about time for me to start making some lineups here. We do have all lineups in.
Oh, God.
No
Jorge Polanco in the Twins lineup. Are you kidding me?
I was just going to say, what were they waiting on for that one? I haven't.
Jorge Polanco out. Okay. Awesome. We're going to trade him too. That'd be fun. I'd be really happy about that. We're so bad. All right. I got to change some stuff here. So keep going. Jorge Polanco, not in the Twins lineup. Just throwing it out there.
Fantasy gods, I don't ask for much, but if we could get word that Jorge Polanco is traded while I'm still on air with Eric, that would be wonderful. Just a little Sunday prayer.
Sort of fucking I can't. Sorry, it's Sunday. I will refrain from.
There are
swear
blue
words.
laws here.
I don't really swear that much anyway. I would say amongst the hosts and analysts on these lovely little site we have, I probably don't swear as much. I would say the tip-off show. Excited for that to come back. Maybe I can fire it off again.
Hey, let's try to keep it PG-13.
Okay, that's fair. That's just light making out on stream.
See what I did? Paul George, PG-13.
We're not the right combination for a Sunday morning show to get us through this. We have what? The 17 minutes before lock? Awesome. We're really helpful. Oh, man.
Here it comes in chat. Paul George was just scratched.
I hate all of you.
Good times.
You guys all suck. This is awful. My job is just getting made fun of. Like it's giving people somewhat relevant DFS information and just being a scapegoat for physical comedy and pain.
Yeah. Eric Johnson wants to know if I'm drunk. No, actually too much sleep last night. I got 8 hours and 2 minutes, which is significantly more than the 4 hours and 49 minutes.
That's a weird humble brag, EMac. It's a weird humble brag, buddy.
No, and I had a nap yesterday for about 90 minutes, woke up, and all of a sudden, no more Max Scherzer. I'm going to take a nap today. This is living the life. Just telling you. All right, looking here at some of our other potential options here. Let's look back at, we don't have any free premium tools today. That's why they're called premium tools. They're not freemium tools, they're premium tools. But if you utilize the promo code MLB Live Before Lock, we'll get you 25% off an Awesemo 1 week package. That's a nice little deal there. You get to check everything out, get the keys to the kingdom. You're MLB only, no problem. You can get a 1 week MLB pass for I think it's $15. So no discount on that, but $2 a day to get all of the tools and not have to wait and hope that we mention some of these on the stream. But some numbers that are coming in, I just took, I don't know if this is the most recent refresh, but it's the one I'm going to go with. You guys want the most recent one, use that promo code and get in here and get those tools. But Yu Darvish coming in on DK at 52%, Aaron Nola at 38%, Caleb Smith down just a skosh there to 24%. Zach Greinke is at 19%, Sonny Gray at 16%. Now you got to be feeling good about your stand on Sonny Gray. Has he crested to half of your lineups yet?
Yeah, he was always at half. He's going to be at half. I capped him at half. So if I got more, that would be a problem. But I'm great getting to Sonny Gray here. We've talked about a number of reasons why. Also getting the leverage off of some of the other two guys up top. But Yu Darvish, I love. Aaron Nola is the guy that I'm shorting on this slate. I'm just hoping that he doesn't completely kill me here. And again, I'm going to the Tucson side. Maybe there's some win correlation. Not that I ever think about the win in baseball. It's such a low probability outcome for middle of the road pitching here. It's kind of a bonus on everything on top. I would much rather my dude go out and mow down 10 batters and the win's just something that happens as a result than trying to rely on it or predict it by any means. For the pitcher specifically. For the team, that's a different conversation. But yeah, for a pitcher, there's 3 innings or 4 innings innings that they're not in control of afterwards. So we try not to factor that in too much.
All right. Asking about some of our better one-off hitting options. Definitely Aristides Aquino. He is batting 6th today. He is, I want to say, he's like $8 on Yahoo. That is a steal. He is 2,400 on DK. Tyler Naquin at 2,500, I think is pretty solid. You've got Cincinnati here going against the Cardinals, and the Cardinals just hate lefties in general, right? It's sort of interesting. See what I said? Hate lefties, right? Yeah. Look, I'm on fire today.
God-fearing people.
I'm a legend in my own mind. Okay.
Makes one.
That's actually true. Sadly, that's actually true. All right. So we have the lefties in their bullpen. They have each worked a couple times over the last 72 hours. So we're probably going to see a righty come out of the bullpen. That's not 100% guarantee, but likely if Oviedo ends up exiting relatively early, which he has for most of the season, that bodes well for Tyler Naquin getting to stick around a little bit longer. Also with who's it on the DL? Castellanos on the DL, one less option for them there. So that's always something you want to consider about Naquin. And then the interesting thing about Eric Haas, 4,500 on DK.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lofty price tag. Would you rather have him as a one-off catcher or outfielder, or Ryan Zimmerman? They're both about 15% of lineup. Zimmerman, you got to burn your first base spot, but he's going to be able to hit all game as the DH today. He's 3,100 on DK.
I mean, it comes down to positional question too. I mean, Eric Haas is valuable at a spot where there's not always a ton of power. I mean, catcher, there is power in regards of you could have 14 or 0. But for me, I don't know. Ryan Zimmerman's never my favorite roster by any means. And up against Baltimore, against Means here, what is his ownership coming in at right now? And Aquino, that's my other thing too, is like Aquino's fine, but he's going to be so owned. I mean, looking at the DraftKings and FanDuel slate, I mean, he's 20% plus on both of them. Hard for me to want to really lock down that spot. I would have to be getting different at pitcher. I would have to have some other things different in my lineup. And he's in the 6 hole. He's been batting cleanup here for a while. So he dropped down a little bit more here. Tyler Stevenson up in the 3 hole at catcher. I mean, maybe the right answer is say play Stevenson for cheaper than going to Haas, but Haas hits the ball so hard facing a left here to start off the game. It's 90 degrees. I mean, the guy he has like an 18.6 degree launch angle too, I believe was the number I saw this morning. He lofts the ball up in the air and gives himself opportunities to hit homers. I mean, he's definitely going to be one of the better catcher plays that you could possibly find on any slate, let alone this one.
All right. I've put in my percentages here for DK where I'm capping them. This means I'll probably hit them because I try to work with the 240 or so player cap on my pitchers. You need 200% for it to work perfectly. I go above that, so the crunches run a little faster. I'm going to come in under on Darvish by about 5 to 10%. I'm going to come in under on Nola by about 15 to 20%. Caleb Smith, I'm willing to come in under but not by much, about 5%. Grinkamp coming in way under. I'm joining you on Sonny Gray. I'm going to go 45%. That's 3x the field. Not quite the Eric Lindquist love, but pretty close. And I've given him 3 thumbs up, so he can get up there a little higher with his projection. Touki Toussaint.
This is my favorite thing about doing shows is it's like for the remainder of the day, the guy that I'm associated to is Touki Toussaint. Like, why did I do this to myself? That's not a winning game, but it's understanding the way that you come to the thought process that lands you on the play, that hopefully that there's some reasoning that's behind it. So when he gives up 5 earned in the first inning, I don't get bombarded on Twitter, but that's always hilarious to me how that works. But let me tell you, I'm calling it right now. 15 plus DK points for one Tiki. That's going to be good enough on this slate if he can give you some access to some different bats.
All right. So where are you on the in percentages for your top stacks? Do you cap them? I cap mine.
But I'm going to run it again here in like 2 minutes. So give me 2 minutes because I had to redo a lot of stuff with Jorge Polanco out. That changed a lot of things for me on this end. And then Trevor Larnach also not in the lineup. So, I mean, there were a lot of weird things about that Twins lineup that needed to be addressed on my end while you're on a show, throwing that in. I mean, I'm going to have time to go through, but I don't want to like manually have to adjust for 50 things leading into, I mean, that's just going to be unfun, but it's just what you do post lock here. Again, 50 lineups over on FanDuel here today. Let's click. I will let you know. Oh, well, it's going to take a second. So yeah, give me 2 minutes on that. But we've got some questions. Gray over Nola. Yes, I love Sonny Gray today.
Bean Dude says no Dick Mountain, but he's rocking some Kansas City Houston stacks. I think that's a nice position to go on. I think 20% Houston. Someone was saying 50% Houston too much. I think 20% is about right. When we fingers crossed get a little Mike Fultonevich in our lives.
Yeah, it's going to be a beautiful time to be alive if that is the case. Oh my God, I'm already very excited.
All right, Washington coming in as our top stack percentage. Interesting. Did not.
Washington is now.
Yeah.
Did that just change? Because it was Tampa Bay and Boston that were ahead of them the whole day.
Tampa Bay is a tick behind. Boston has dropped to the pack with Washington, Tampa Bay, Detroit, Cincinnati, the Angels, and then Boston.
See, this is just such a fantastic tournament slate. I mean, is Yarborough in the pool on FanDuel? No, he's not in the pool for me on FanDuel today. But if I were making more than 50 lineups, I'm sure that he would be. Just not my favorite play here today. But going back to this, like, it is fascinating how much can change. And it's always like a percentage or two here, but it's for me, I absolutely love getting to Toronto right now where they're at 5.9% top stack percentage. I mean, 4.3 leverage. That is a gigantic amount of leverage. Everybody's going up for Nola. Everybody's going up for Darvish. That just gives me the tournament route for me is just playing more Toronto, playing more Tampa Bay. Also, the second most positively leveraged stuff. That is why the DFS top stacks tool is the best, because you're going to win tournaments more than not with your bats, with having stacks that go off. If your hitters don't do anything, it doesn't matter who you're playing at pitcher. You have to win tournaments with your bats. And we don't talk about it as much as pitching because pitching is theoretically more predictable, and it comes down to finding leverage. And so for me, it's if I have more Tucson over on DK as I'm finishing this out, Toronto and Tampa Bay are going to be a larger portion of my portfolio. Houston as well, just because I think they're also positively leveraged, also lower owned, and some of the guys are more expensive and harder for people to get to. But for me, I'm just hoping that Kansas City Detroit game doesn't go completely nuts here now. And then Washington, it is insane to me how much they have been owned in the last however many slates. It is mind-blowing. And part of it is Juan Soto just coming to life in a real way here in the second half. But I can't do it. I just can't do it today.
It's going to be very nice hitting weather there in Camden Yards. But I think you're right here. Even though Washington is getting Ryan Zimmerman with this being the Beltway Series and the homestand that's in Camden Yards being played under the American League rules, so they get the designated hitter. It's still hard to get there. The back half of their lineup's just so bad. And I did not upload the draft, probably the actual lineups. I'm assuming that, Alcides Escobar is leading off. Just why he's in the league still.
Always, he's always leading off. It's just absurd.
But Carter Keyboom, Rene Rivera, Victor Robles. That's yikes. That's not good.
Mistakes were made.
Franmil Reyes has been. We already talked about that.
Yep, we got him out.
Oh, text from my wife. Taking a little nap before I take her out to lunch. She's already done a half marathon today, of course. She did a 10K yesterday.
That's like a half. She does a half marathon a week. It's just insane.
Literally does. Yes, literally. Not even joking there. All right, so I'm running my crunches here. We'll see what is coming out here. I've got
an uncomfortable amount of Angels too. I want to throw them out there as well.
I am.
It's a lot of it is just 1 through 5, but I don't on FanDuel. That's fine.
Do you have any Angels in the outfield?
Why do you do this? I mean, we have 5 minutes before lock, and you're just going full dad mode on me. Full dad mode. I mean, do you want to? I don't know where to go. Okay,
Jared Walsh clearly is I think he's underrated. 5,200. That's a tough ask, and Shohei Ohtani at 64. They're giving a lot of respect to the horribleness of Mr. Ober today.
Mm-hmm. All right, I got.
Were you around in the fan in the Kirby Puckett era?
So if you're going to play Caleb Smith, play him on FanDuel. By the way, just seeing where that ownership's coming in at, he's at 6% there. Grades out pretty well here in Awesemo's projections, so I don't mind getting to like 12, 16, like just double the field on Caleb Smith there. He's just going so egregiously over-owned on DraftKings that I can't do it. But what was the question there, EMac? Sorry, I was just kind of finishing up my stuff.
Oh no, I was buying some time here. I was just you were watching the Kirby Puckett years, right? You were around long enough to see a little bit of it, right?
I went down to spring training with my dad in Fort Myers to go watch the Twins a couple times when I was a kid, and I tried to get a Kirby Puckett autograph, and I actually forged a fake Kirby Puckett autograph, thinking that my dad would think it was cool or something, just like, because he wouldn't come out and like sign the stuff. He was like busy doing whatever, and I couldn't get one signed or whatever. My dad's like, good job. And it said like just Kirby. it was just like such an obvious bad lie, but I don't know, the adorable things that we as kids do. I don't know.
Oh, always fun. Always fun.
Loved him. I loved him so much.
Do you think Tariq Skubal is playable today? I think he's
he is. Yeah, the K's are there. You just got to know that it is a terrifying spot, considering we're seeing a 5+ implied total, gives up a ton of hard contact. At the same time, the K's are there for him. He absolutely could bust a couple off here in this spot. Like you could be dead after 2 innings there, but you could also pick up 6-7 strikeouts and kind of sneak out a W there over on FanDuel. I wouldn't mind him over there. Over on DK as well. Again, I'm just going the Toussaint route to try to get different, and gives me a completely different build going down to 5,900. But on FanDuel, I think he would be kind of an interesting, different piece to be going to. 8,200 on DK, less inclined to do it.
All right, we have is Guerrero a top play today? I think he is solid. Anybody that can, lead the league in home runs, average, and RBI, it's going to be a pretty solid option most days.
Yep.
Let's see. Fantasy Cruncher is moving at Flintstone speed.
Yeah, we're in sweat territory. We have a 3-minute sweat incoming here.
Apparently I will just be running some 5-0 stacks at this point because I need them to actually generate.
Yeah, when you do the 5-2-1 and you're trying to get things specifically done in a certain way. I mean, that's the fun. Again, people, we love giving up.
Studio is in. He's going to be in 30% of my lineups. That feels terrifying.
You should not do that. Turtle. Fear the turtle. Do not do that. EMac, don't do
2,400 though, and he's coming in as my catcher.
Don't do it.
Don't do it. You sure?
Just don't do it. Yes, don't do it. If there's anything I did today, I'm going to just send you a screenshot of whatever Williams Studio has in the box score, and you're going to be happy at the end of today when we're in Slack going back and forth, and I saved you from playing too much Studio. He's a fun story. He's a cool dude. He's really good with kids, does great pictures, and he's a great Minnesota Twin. But let me tell you, he's not very good at playing baseball. He's not very good at hitting baseballs. We'll say that. Doesn't strike out. Congratulations. That's all we can say.
How does his autograph look compared to Kirby Puckett's?
I don't know. I haven't lied and done it that way.
Have you thought about getting a Shohei Ohtani autograph for your soon-to-be wife?
Oh yeah, no. Here's the thing: I got to keep Shohei Ohtani kind of distant from him because it sounds like no. If there was a hall pass, I think she would be taking Shohei Ohtani, or she has like a weird grouping of guys. It's like Shohei Ohtani. Who was the other guy that I can't remember the name of right now? But yeah, she's got some different tastes. But Shohei Ohtani, I would be just fine with actually. Thinking about that, that's a great story.
All right, we're a family show on a Sunday. We're not going any farther.
PG-13. I told you, we're fine. I didn't
this would be Paul George, number 13. We would be. We'll save that for MLB Live After Lock in the event we ever get one of those. But speaking of what are we going to do after lock today? Because there's no more shows. We have all sorts of content over there on the Awesemo Fantasy Football channel. It is a new channel that we've put out there just so we could put all of the fantasy football content on there. Tons of best ball information, season-long drafts, all that good stuff. You're getting the rankings from Alex Baker, Awesemo himself. You've got some consensus rankings out there and quite a few different strategies to use on the different sites for best ball, half PPR, full PPR, etc. That is just going to really ramp up over the next month as we head towards NFL. Of course, we want to say thank you to PrizePicks for sponsoring the show today. Again, promo code Awesemo gets you a $100 deposit match on your first deposit, up to $100. You put in 10, they give you 10. You put in 20, they give you 20. You put in 200, they're going to give you 100 because the cap's 100. But that is the best thing that you can do at any point in time. It's also the largest deposit bonus available in the industry right now. You'll want to check that out. Remember, you make your own little parlay cards with the fantasy twist, utilizing individual players. You can look at their fantasy scores. You can look at their regular stats. They set the lines. The lines do move. Once you've locked it in, it'll stay, though. Your players must play for them to count as part of your parlay card. Get 10 or get 5 right. You can pick 2, 3, 4, or 5 on your card. Pick 5 right, and you get 10 times your buy-in. Pretty slick deal over there. And you can do cross sports. They have Highlight, Eric. They have CSGO, Counter-Strike Global Offensive. I know that one. I play that one. It's good. Not good the game, the DFS version. I don't do video games. Once they got away from Sega, once you had 2 thumb joysticks, I said, and triggers, I had to say no. Duck Hunt is the only trigger that I need.
Are we done?
I'm seeing if I can get Jordan to laugh or shake his head.
He's over it. He's over it. He's just like, oh my God, I have a Sunday to get to.
All right. Well, I'm going to go have some, what do you think? Some fish tacos today? Or should I get perhaps a nice drunken ribeye?
A drunken ribeye.
It's going to be one or the other.
I don't know.
If I get the fish tacos, I can have ice cream later this afternoon. If I get the drunken ribeye, that's all I'm eating for the rest of the day.
Yeah, I'm going to go just smash a breakfast burrito. I think it's that kind of morning. It's time.
Nice. Well, I am 3 hours ahead, and I already had that kind of morning. That's a little breakfast burrito, eggs, jalapenos, doused in Costco Pico de Gallo. I love their Pico de Gallo. Very tasty. Very tasty. But with that, we're going to get on out of here. Check out the Awesemo new channels, the Awesemo Odds, as well as Awesemo Fantasy Football. You guys are getting a little bored this afternoon. Jump in some of these best ball drafts. It's a lot of fun. I will be doing that myself. You can follow Eric on Twitter over at Eric Lindquist. It is Awesemo_COM. We're about half a dozen away from getting 33,000 followers. Make that happen for Rinpack. And you can find me at EMac DFS. With that, gamers, good luck.
Tiki, do you love me? Are you pitching? Let's go.